Okay. YouTube says we're live, so I guess that means we're probably live. I am joined on season 2, episode 23 of the Making Awesome podcast by Peter Solomon, right? I want to make sure I get the last name right, of Wham Bam Systems. Look, if you guys don't know Wham Bam Systems, do yourself a favor, open a new tab, go over, take a look at Wham Bam, what they do, because oh my gosh, like flexible build plates. If you're resin printing, because I gotta say resin is toxic, but I don't have the fun little thing that comes up on the screen because it's live. If you do resin printing and you don't have one of their flexible build plates, you're playing in hard mode. As someone that is currently playing in hard mode, who is looking to buy some flexible build sheets, I'm excited for it. And if you do stick around long enough, there may or may not be some coupon codes that come up. We're not going to tell you when we do it. You're just going to have to hang out and watch. But Peter, can you tell us a little bit of the who you are, the where you from, and the what you did? Give us the Backstreet Boys, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I'm Peter, like you know, and I was from the New Jersey area as a kid. I grew up, I went to school up in New York at Pratt. I spent a number of years, I went to school for industrial design, spent a number of years in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, New York as an industrial designer, designing all kinds of stuff. And then I decided to, in the early 90s, get a master's degree and went out to Italy for that and wound up spending 18 years of my life in Italy, working for a few design firms after the master's degree, and then opening up a design studio over there, and then a couple of startup companies. Married an Italian woman. Kind of my life became so centered around Italy, it seemed like we were never going to leave. And then I think it was 2010. I know it's 2010. I had my first son. Couldn't find the time to spend time with the family, so we decided to uproot and move geographically, leave my design firm, leave my startups, move back to the States. Took a job with Savannah College of Art and Design as the chair of 7 departments, with the aim they wanted to make the best design program in the world. And then in 2014, I wound up opening my studio again here in South Florida. We're in Hollywood, Florida, which is just above Miami. And my aim in the design studio has always been to create really meaningful innovation. That means innovation that touches the end user's passion and needs. And the way we do that is through a lot of research into pain points, difficult workarounds, everything like that. In 2018, we opened Wham Bam. If you'd like to hear how that happened, I'll give you a little bit of insight.
Tell us.
Yeah, so, all along, like I said, I finished my studies undergraduate in '88. And although there were some mainframe computers doing CAD, they weren't accessible to everybody else. So we worked in plotter, pen and paper, and Technigraph. I also worked as a prototyper many times when there was no design work. So I would build prototypes with my hands, before a 3D printer could do it. And I was around when the first 3D printers became available. Of course, they were inaccessible to anybody. They were millions of dollars, the first SLA machines.
Oh, yeah.
Where I printed a small chair about yay big for
I lost you there. Okay. Sorry, we lost you there for a couple of seconds.
Okay. I was saying, my internet connection is unstable. Hopefully, can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
You make sure that it's on the 5G. Let's see if this...
It's Zoom being Zoom.
Okay. So, yeah, I made that small chair on a service bureau's SLA machine. Cost $2,000 today. It would cost, 40 cents to print, Later, I ran labs with multiple $200,000, $300,000 Stratasys machines.
Oh, the like the Fortis machines?
The Fortis, the Dimensions. Mm-hmm. I ran labs with the object machine, and I also contributed to a lot of development, both of 3D programs as well as development of a few machines. We were around when the first powder plaster machines that they would run basically super glue, CA, There you go. The first ones were being developed. The models looked like crap, but they were so cheap compared to everything else that
The
it was
300 and the 410, right? From Z Corp.
Yep. No, even before the Z Corp, Z Corp really industrialized it. But some of the first.
The ones at MIT.
There were some out in Europe that were doing it while it was still in Italy. But
No
yeah,
kidding.
everybody was doing it. Everybody was experimenting with their own. Z Corp managed to industrialize it and add inks and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But long story short, in 2015, in my own studio, I had a few, whatever, $10,000, $5,000 machines. And I had been contributing to my upgrades to the sharing forums of the different machines. You know, when Thingiverse came out, I'd upload anything that I did there, my advice, my tips. And I saw the forums shifted from being engineers, designers, technicians, and instead they were all of a sudden, you know, how do I print an Iron Man helmet or mask or whatever, right?
Yep.
Is it possible to design your own thing that you're going to print? And I was like, what's going on here? You know, it's the first sign that there was a major shift in the industry. And, you know, I asked around, and there are all of a sudden these Creality and other machines coming on the market that are printing well. And so I bought one for the heck of it. And darn if it didn't print as well as some of those really much more expensive machines.
It was, you know, a few orders of magnitude cheaper. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it took a lot of tinkering, you know, to figure out how to get it to print well and, you know, eliminate some of the ringing and all the rest and really get the machine in tune. But I'm used to, having worked on a lot of industrial machines, I'm used to tramming a machine, setting things up correctly. You know, I'm real precise about that. And at a certain point, you know, I just said, this is unbelievable. I bought like 5 different 2 CR10s, a couple of Ender 2s. When Ender 3 came out, of course, that, a few other different machines. Just, I couldn't believe how great it was to have these low-cost machines available to us.
Oh, yeah, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. And
to have non-proprietary parts, you know, the other machines, if your head gets jammed, you swap out a whole head. You don't take apart the hot end and the nozzle. And
it's true. It's true.
You know, there's something to be said still for getting a Raise 3D, an Ultimaker, any of these more expensive, you know, from mid to very much more expensive, especially if you're an institution. But if you're a home tinker or even a small studio, it's real nice to have these resources. So long story short, I had always been battling with bed adhesion, fell in love with PEI. I would buy it from CS Hyde in New York, you know, no guarantee. I don't know why they were selling it. You know, I don't know if they knew 3D printing people were using it. You get the sheet, you mount it on there. If it got scratched or cracked, that was it. You'd have to get a new sheet. At first, they were selling without 3M, and the 3M was separate, and that was really hard to laminate on that. Mm-hmm. So I love the PEI, was playing around with a lot of materials with that. And then I said, I've got to find a way to flex this off. And of course, you know, started experimenting with a flexible sheet and embedded neodymium magnets underneath the bed.
Yep.
It was around the time that I believe a lot of people were experimenting with it. By the time that I launched the video of how to do it, you know, I just showed everybody how to make it just like I was doing it. A few other people said, hey, I did this, I did that. And it was cool. And Prusa was working on their own version, you know, with a powder paint and embedded magnets. BuildTak was selling a bed with embedded magnets, and their surface. Creality eventually came out with 2 flexible magnets, and but at a certain point, you know, I was sharing how to make it, and too many people asked me, well, can't you just make it for me? We don't want to go out and buy the spring steel and cut it down. We don't know how to do this. So I got in contact with Steven, who's now one of my partners. I'll tell you about the formation of Wham Bam, but Steven is out of Taiwan, and he worked with me on every product I did for my design consultancy that would have to get manufactured in Asia. He has a whole team on the ground in Asia. Now we have doing sourcing, quality control, electrical engineering, mold engineering. We have a lot of relationships with personal relationships with factories. If we can't find it within those, we source different factories, we audit, we find the ones that are actually making and not just trading, and then we go in and we revamp them. So anyway, I asked Steven if he doesn't want to set up a company, and the company would be to make this flexible steel plate. And he said, yeah, of course. And then I contacted Melinda, who's our third partner, with three partners. Melinda's our CMO,
Yep.
and she was doing some marketing work for my design firm in SEO. And I said, hey, we've got this great idea. Do you want to join? So the three of us just split the company and said, let's make it. And we ran a Kickstarter campaign with only 6 size flexible build systems and made our goal within the first 48 hours. I can't remember what
it was very quickly.
Very quick. You know, and there were the doubters. Oh, it's a Kickstarter campaign. They're not going to deliver. We already had production set up. We knew we were going to deliver. We just wanted to fund it. And that Kickstarter funded the growth of our company. Till today, we still haven't accepted any investments. This is my 5th startup.
Wow.
And it's the only one that I did without any external investments. We've done it all ourselves. We're going on our 4th year in April. In the flexible build systems, I don't know how many we have. We have something like 32 for FDM and probably more than that for resin. We have about 300 SKUs, you know, the different products. And that's kind of how we got here. We first started working out of my design studio, which was in Hollywood, Florida, was in another location.
Okay.
And when we grew, we opened up a commercial office down the street for sales and marketing. And then when COVID hit, I let all of my employees for the design studio go because it was just too difficult with the family to think about risking it. But Wham Bam was growing and I couldn't stop that. So eventually Wham Bam really took over my design studio. And
yeah, I see some pieces behind you. That guitar is kind of iconic, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the foam handmade model of it. Here, I'll grab the guitar.
Oh, and you're a man of talent. You're in a Herman Miller Aaron. That's a good desk chair. It's a
Yeah,
good desk chair.
Every employee gets an Aaron chair.
Hell yeah! See, that's a reason to work for Herman for Wham Bam, is those Herman Miller chairs. So good. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to be sitting at a computer all day, you've got to have a great one. But yeah, this was the handle guitar, and that was my design.
It's so pretty.
It's also super thin.
Is that all carbon fiber?
All carbon fiber.
Hell
we developed
yeah.
technique. We developed new manufacturing processes to make this. Sound and playability were all at the root of it. Some incredible famous guitarists were behind this. I mean, I would hang out in hotel rooms with them at the different shows. I was backstage at the Black Eyed Peas. I was hanging out with Earl Slick, David Bowie's guitarist, Billy Sheen from Mr. Big. Some really interesting figures in the guitar world. Thanks to doing this, I got to know so many really exciting people, and really, this was the world's first all carbon fiber guitar. And still today, the company closed in 2010 due to the economic recession. Nobody wanted expensive guitars, but it's still today. There's 2 people who have tattoos of it on their arm. There's a group that has active participants in it in Facebook. So it's quite interesting.
And I have no musical talent whatsoever. I love listening to music, but guitar has always been one of those that I've wanted to take up. And now with 3D printing, I'm like, oh, but I could make one and it would look really cool. But then I'm like, no, you have absolutely no musical talent. You're not going to do that. But that is
try, right?
Did the idea of being able to 3D print any of those designs initially, was that kind of what spurred your interest in 3D printing initially? Or what got you from this, you know, industrial designer that made, I mean, ostensibly gorgeous pieces? What was that spark that made you move over to 3D printing?
So this is very interesting. I mean, 3D printing is so invaluable in product development, because as you're developing something in the computer, the computer has no scale. If I'm looking at something microscopic, it's the same size on my screen as if I'm designing a city, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have a real dimension. It looks beautiful from the front view, but what about when you're turning it and you're feeling it? Does it feel good in your hands? Does it fit your head if you're doing a VR headset or anything else? So what we would do in the past, for example, this one, prior to being able to large scale 3D print, I would do 2D drawings of each view, and I would cut them out full scale. I'd mount them I'd print them out on a plotter, mount them to a piece of cardboard, cut them out, and then use a front one and a back one of the cutout over the foam with a hot wire, a wire that would heat up and cut
the dang. Yeah.
And I do it for every view until I got pretty close, and then a little bit of sanding to get it there. And if I wanted to make a change, I didn't make it in the model. Otherwise, it's not in the computer. So I change it in the computer, reprint out a drawing, remake the model until it actually satisfied what I was looking for. And that was the only way that I'd know if it felt good in the hands, the body, if it was the right shape, the right curvature. We'd make all these different guide curves to figure it out. And those kind of models I did for every project for 20 years of my career. 3D printing all of a sudden allowed you to make a 3D and not just make a final prototype for showing at a trade show, but it allowed me to do fast printouts to see if it's even viable. Actually, I could bring in some things where we can move when I'm moving around. I'll show you. Just recently did a monofin for mermaids. So there's quite a big culture.
Like the mermaids up here by WikiWatchy, or where? Is that a thing outside of WikiWatchy?
I don't know the ones at WikiWatchy, sorry.
Oh, it's been a show that's been going on for something like 40 or 50 years, where it's mermaids, but they've got air supply and all that. But yeah, I know that 3D printing was big initially when it came out with the mermaids, because they could make custom monofins, and they wouldn't have to just kind of wrap their feet or adapt them. But I don't know if you were involved in this.
So there's a company that contacted my design firm many years ago, and we've worked on quite a few things for them. One of them was a monofin for mermaids. The company's called FinFun, and they make the mermaid tails, a lycra tail that you put over your body, and you put a monofin in there. And they wanted a high performance monofin. And what I found out is nobody had any real 3D data of a woman's foot form for sports, for swimming. Most foot forms were for fashion, which meant they were squishing the women's feet into uncomfortable shapes so they looked really thin, to put them up on heels. It wasn't for getting the propulsion, the performance. So what did I do? I measured and traced hundreds of women's feet. I had a special little board that had a top view and a side view. I'd write down what they thought their shoe size is, even though the actual measurement was never what they thought it was. Figure out where they have bunions or bumps. And then I 3D printed out of TPU dozens and dozens of shapes that I thought was the most ideal shape for a certain foot size, and tried then many fits. People complained that this was rubbing here or there, until I created our own ergonomic interior. I did the same process for VR headsets like I was talking about. Human bodies are all shaped so differently. And when you try to create anything that needs to physically mount very well to it, you really can't get around trying it on hundreds of people to get those insights. And we came up with a shape, to me, that's just incredible. It's comfortable for everybody within a very large range of feet, and we only have to scale it for the different sizes. And we created the monofin for them with that. But if I didn't have 3D printing, it would have been, a 5-year quest to develop those ergonomics. Thanks to 3D printing, the development was probably about 4 or 5 months, but it was a reasonable development, and it was amazing because we would be able to print it on TPU. I make a change, overnight print, next day I'm already putting it on feet.
And now with printers like the Carbon, now the M3, the brand new one they just released, we're hoping to get Andrew Sink on here. I'd love to talk to him about Carbon, as well as kind of, some of the crazy stuff that he's been doing on the open source side of things. But you could do TPU insoles like that in minutes, like to the effect that Adidas makes 3D printed shoes for the consumer mass market. It's the Adidas 4D, I believe is what they call it. I'm told not the most comfortable thing in the world, but if you're into 3D printing, that is something that's got to kind of be on the shelf. But it's a little
3D printing for manufacture. It's such an amazing idea. Some people, they think it's just there for people who want to make one of a kinds, but it really has a lot of potential for manufacture, because number one, like that, you could personalize. You could take somebody's shape and put it in there, change it. You could have online programs where the user can upload or change or modify. But even before that, so many times people don't realize, if you're going to make a mold, let's say I'm going to make a product this big, an injection mold in the United States is probably going to cost you about $80,000 for a mold. Maybe in China it's 40. But you've got this investment on the mold.
Yep.
Let's say the part only costs you $1 to make, but you're only going to make 1,000 of them. Well, an $80,000 mold,
You'll
you have
never
to
make your money.
you have to $80 to the cost of the product. The product costs $1 to make, but now it's $81 to make. You're
Yep.
never going to be able to sell that. So there's an economy of scale. You can switch to, more expensive investment, high production processes when you have that critical mass of users. When you're a startup or a new company, or you have a niche market, you can't afford to make those kinds of investments. And all of a sudden, 3D printing, rapid manufacture offers a great alternative, right?
Yeah, I guess the saying that we've always used, because we do a lot of product development here, is, 3D printing is for the 1 to 10,000. If you're looking at making more than 10,000, and hi, inventors, this is directed at you. I'm sorry. If you tell me you're going to make 10,000 and you don't present me a marketing plan, I'm not going to believe you. Or a business plan. I'm not going to believe you. Now, I will be glad, the first one to eat the crow when I'm wrong. But so far, I've been batting 100. The 3D printing is great for that initial production run, right? Test your market, verify it, and when you can prove that you can make money, because let's be real, 3D printing is going to be more expensive than injection molding every single time. Unless you have a farm of printers yourself, you're going to be paying a company like 3D Musketeers or whomever to do it. There's a lot of extra cash involved in that because you're paying somebody else. You will find a break-even point, and doing that break-even analysis is important. We find normally it's like, 1,500 to 10,000 in that range, depending on the molds.
Sure.
But I can get you in contact with a guy in Bradenton if you want to get some good quality injection molds for relatively cheap.
I always love meeting other injection molders. Yeah,
the guy's great. But
I've probably opened something like 500 injection molds in my lifetime, maybe more. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I've created an 8-ton mold to make a monoblock chair. I've walked inside of molds. And I usually go in and I help the manufacturer to improve the mold just because of the accumulated knowledge. Even though I'm not a mold engineer, I've been able to do this for so many. But yeah, very interesting.
After a while, you just kind of pick it up, right? When you're not a mold engineer, but you know what is a draft, and then all of a sudden someone tells you like, oh, okay, I know what a draft angle is. That makes sense, and it becomes second nature. Fillets, they're needed everywhere. You can't have sharp corners on injection molds.
There's cooling, flow. There's so many really interesting terms in there, just like there are for 3D printing. You have to learn the parameters. And when you really get the hang of it, then it becomes second nature. But by the way, earlier, you touched on something very interesting, because there is another reason to 3D print, and there's a big trend in startups and venture capital advice, and that's early to market and early to fail. And the idea is if your product needs to have some massive changes, well, if you just spent $70,000 on a mold, you're not going to be making major changes. But you can 3D print it, find out, oh no, it didn't fit this, or it didn't work for this, make a couple changes, and do V2 tomorrow without losing any money. Right. So that's also a great validation and improvement cycle in your process development.
It really is. And this is the other thing that always bums me out about working with inventors. They all want NDA. So I have got pieces on my desk that I can't show people that show the progression of a product from initial ideation all the way to, we're probably 2 or 3 prototypes off of, marketable ready product. And you would be looking at, like you said, minimum 20 grand. I don't care where you go, minimum 20 grand to get a new mold cut. If you're lucky, some guy can go in there with a MIG welder and then sand it down with a file. It's going to look like crap, but maybe you get lucky.
EDM is economic. You're sinking a
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, if you have to cut stuff out, wire EDM is...
Yeah, 20,000. You have to buy a mold base. You have to work on it. You're going to have an investment.
And so your experience with injection molding, did that come from the time before 3D printing or more of the time after Wham Bam started?
I mean, I still use injection molding, but like I said, I've been doing, I graduated in 1988. And before that, I even was doing a lot of freelancing and design. So I've been using injection molding, rotoforming, blow molding, extrusion, metal manufacturing, a little bit of everything. And even develop materials like foaming metals and things like that. I love it. I developed here, we were doing cases for iPads and Kindles and things out of EVA foam, the same as Crocs. And we had to develop ways to get a really precise stabilization of it, because if you had the built-in buttons where, oh, here they are, you know, the buttons had to be able to hit the device button underneath. You couldn't have very much variation. So we created some production processes to keep that uniformity, and eventually applied that technology to making kids' headphones out of the same foam so that they'd be safe for kids. But to be able to mold this so that we can run electronics in there and fit in some nice speakers.
Yeah, you're overmolding a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, this was, we really developed a whole new technology with the factories, and this was made in China. So what we typically will do is I'll go into the factory, I'll reset up the whole factory line, I'll suggest ways of doing it, and I'll stay with them until we get a technique down. And it was quite interesting. This, by the way, EVA foam, when you mold it, the mold cavity is about a third of the size of this. So this mold right here is probably about that big of a cavity, because the piece pops out and it just keeps on expanding. It just keeps expanding after it's molded. And you know, I'm excited about materials. I've taught materials and manufacturing processes. I've participated. It's one of the things that I love is just getting into the materials of it and what a material can do to change a product. You know, just by using a new material to do something, like using foam to do headphones, we're able to do these headphones that children can wear. Parents are real happy to buy. At a certain point, they were selling 3,000 a week on Amazon. It was crazy for the company. We won the Good Design Award for this product.
Nice.
It was a nice success. Yeah.
And see, that's kind of what it's all about. You know, being able to that rapid prototyping stage, I think is incredibly valuable. And so I like this. You know, you started off practical, right? All of your work was done practically, right? Hot wire, cardboard, foam, the old school way. And I even saw that you rounded those corners. So either you did that by hand or you used a router. And I'm guessing it's the former.
Techniques. Now, on the foam, that was all by hand. And I teach my kids for getting, I could put a radius gauge up to a foam model that I make, and I'll get the radius right. And I have techniques, you know, because I've developed it before 3D printing. It was so necessary to be precise that we've developed techniques so we can be precise across the whole platform.
Right.
You know, quite interesting.
And so Wham Bam started as just kind of you saw a target market, you knew that there was value to it, you saw these PEI flex plates and PEX flex plates becoming a thing, and you said, screw it, I'm in, but I need a team. So you teamed up with 2 other people, and you just made it, right? So can you talk about that history from, hey, we're going to make a company, to, wait, we've expanded into a brand new facility that is considerably larger than the old one?
Yeah, it's nuts. I mean, we started off with 3 people wearing all the hats. I mean, for the first, I'd say, year and a half, it was the 3 of us and my team on the ground in China. The 3 partners, the 2 here in US, Melinda and I did everything, you know, in the beginning. And we decided early on we had to make the products in China because our target market was not the Stratasys owners, but they're the Geetek, the Creality, and the Cubic owners. So they're buying $300 machines. We can't make something that costs $800 for a $300 machine. You know, we had to respect the price, but we knew we could do it better. We knew we can create our own materials. We could create our own magnets. We could create our own processes, and we could create a better product than anybody else could do. Our track history proves it. So we set it up so we would produce in China, but we were doing everything ourselves. Our first hire, I believe, was our Andrew, our technical support person, who's just recently had to leave, and we're substituting him out. And then we hired Caesar to help us with sales support and inventory management, and then a financial manager, Miguel, then a graphic designer, Nick. Now we're a team of 6 people here in the US and growing. Like I said, we were first out of a single small design firm and then a small secondary office. We got tired of walking down the street to talk to each other. And we decided also that you know, a big part of getting that much product out is having some fulfillment centers. At first, we would ship everything from China to the end user, but people in the States would have a real long waiting period, and that ugliness of, China losing a product or the shippers losing it. So we started working with the California Fulfillment Center at first. And the center has done us well. They get people product very speedily. Unfortunately, they make tons of mistakes. We have customers receiving ponytails and hair extensions when they order a build system. And it's real hard to explain to them that we did not mean that as a comment on their masculinity, and we did not want to send that to them. That was a complete mistake. We do everything we can to rectify it right away.
Oh yeah,
but
customer support is a big thing. You can have great products if your customer support is shit. It's never going to sell.
We have two types of. One is we have the sales and ordering customer support. Melinda and Caesar are handling all of that, and then we have the technical customer support, which is myself and now Pierre. And we pride ourselves in trying to get back to the people as soon as possible. I really try wherever possible, even on the weekend or at midnight if I'm on the computer, to say, either I'll answer a question if it's quick, or say, I'm going to get back to you the first business day. Don't worry about it. Because we know what it means to have a 3D printer that's down. When you have a 3D printer that's down, the world's in, and you don't know if it's the filament, if it's a gem, if it's your slicer, if it's the electronics, if it's a fan, if it's your new Wham Bam product. You don't know what it is, and you're frustrated, and you're lashing out on anything you can to figure this out. So we try to give them confidence. And a lot of times we always suggest, let's get on a phone call. And I've worked, complete beginners through getting a good bed level, even without our product, just understanding how to use the printer or what the best slicer settings are. And the time spent on that is never quantified. We never sit there and say, is this worth the value that we're selling? We just say, this is part of the company that we offer, is this, direct one-on-one communication, which is real important. So anyway, long story short, we have the California Fulfillment Center that's making mistakes, costing a fortune. We decided we've got to learn about fulfillment ourselves. So within this new space, which I'll walk you through later if anybody's interested, we're still in construction. We built a warehouse, and we're prototyping a fulfillment center of our own, that once we really master it, we'll probably, switch completely to that for US and then replicate that in other continents where needed. Right now, for some continents, or some countries, we have distributors. So where it's really become impossible to sell to England, unfortunately, because of Brexit, even though we're applying for a British VAT number, we do have a distributor there. Brazil, it's very hard for importing. We have distributors, but one day maybe we'll have our own fulfillment center in those places.
And for those that are wondering, this is exactly what vertical integration looks like, right? Previously you were outsourcing the fulfillment to a company that theoretically knew what they were doing. You found out relatively quickly they're not batting 100, and you need to be batting 100, or at least 99.9 to keep people happy. And vertical integration is what we're seeing out of most of the major manufacturers right now. Prusa, for those that haven't noticed it, they've started their own chip production line. They're making their own damn motherboards in-house. And so this is literally what businesses do, because the less variables that exist out there in the industry, and the more that you can control, the more tightly you know what your costs are going to be, and the better service quality and support that you can provide to your clients, right? Vertical integration is what makes businesses successful long-term, period.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although it can kill them too, right? If you expand too quickly.
There are so many costs that people don't understand. We're growing every year, we're doubling, but every time that we take on something new, like warehousing or anything, it triples your costs. We finally went to salary payroll last year. It was a big step for us, but all the costs go up. And then you're saying, how are we going to handle cash flow? And there's a whole cash flow analysis. If we're going to spend all this money on a new mold, we might have to worry about where that liquidity is coming from, So there's a lot to do. Luckily, I've run quite a few different startups of my own in the past and counsel people, but it's a challenge that most people don't understand from behind the scenes.
It's absolutely true, right? And so I guess to that effect, how far are you guys from being fully moved into this new office? How's it coming along?
We're probably 85%. I mean, other than waiting for permits, which was just a nightmare, waiting for our signage outside to finish and the small touch-ups on the walls, we're there. And when you'd like, I'll switch over the iPad and show you guys around.
Yeah, we'll have to do it toward the end.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a good way to kind of cap everything off. But
We
I
are-
have been told that
Hmm.
there may or may not be some coupon codes that we're giving away today. So is there something you'd like to share with all the viewers? We have a few people watching us live right now.
Yeah, so Melinda was kind enough to set up 2 coupon codes. The first is, they're both with the word Musketeers. The first are for the viewers that are live streaming with us right now. Until 6 p.m. Eastern, you get 20% off anything you order if you use the code Musketeers in the checkout.
Yep.
And then the people who are going to be watching this after on YouTube, they'll get 10% off until May 31st. But there it is. Sorry if I'm not holding it up correctly.
Oh, you're good.
But use the code Musketeers and take advantage of this. You know, we wanted to be able to give your viewers something back for hosting us. So that's very nice.
I'm just typing that out in the comments so that people can see it if they're not immediately paying attention.
You know, the other great thing about being in this new space while you're typing it is just having dedicated rooms. We have a whole photo room and video room. Before, I was doing our videos either in the lab or in the workspace. We have our printers now separated, our printer room separated from the workshop room where we're using bandsaws and sanders. In the past, you know, we'd cut something out and dust would fly all over the 3D printers and things. And we have nice separate offices. So it's almost a luxury. It's really funny. And in my old office, it was funny, yesterday we had a supplier come in, and in my old office, you'd have to walk from the office outwards to use the restroom that was in the facility building, but not in our space. And we now have, of course, restrooms here, but the supplier said, wow, I don't have to go out anymore. Like, this is unbelievable. So it's funny. The growth gives us some pleasant luxuries as well as many mistakes, you know.
It's true. Like, it's, yeah, I know that feeling. We actually started in retail initially, and boy, howdy, was that a bad move. But you know, now that we've kind of moved into a different location, it is a lot nicer to have those amenities closer to where you need them. And hopefully soon we'll be moving into a bigger facility, but maybe not for another year and a half. The name, the name has always made me wonder, because like I was wholehearted expecting it to be like a joke about George Michael's, or, you know, Wham Bam, thank you, man, or something like that. Where did the name Wham Bam come from?
The name Wham Bam came from one instantaneous moment of thought, and an hour later confirming with my wife, and no deeper thought. So, you know, just the first time I was able to flex a print off, and it just, first of all, I got great first layer adhesion, and it was an FDM machine, and flexing a large print off 300 bed surface, you know, the CR10.
Yeah.
And giant print just came off. I'm like, wham, bam, it's just done. And I didn't think anything of it. And when I had told Melinda and Stephen we're opening a company, I went home to my wife and I said, we're going to open a company for the 3D printing. I think I'm going to call it Wham Bam. What do you think? She's like, you're crazy. And you know, later, of course, there's some people who push back. Okay, it has connotations to, you know, negative things, but we never meant it as anything but the immediateness, the funness. And actually, even the logo is very cartoon pop, because it's, you know, like a Batman hitting somebody, for an old reference, you know.
Right. Yeah, the bam, pow.
Yeah, and to us, it was always that. We're serious, but we have a tagline that, you know, we're making 3D printing easier, more fun, and more productive. And the whole idea, the whole idea is, you know, we want this company and people who use our products to have fun, to really benefit from them. It should make it more productive and a lot more easier, but it's making it have fun. If we could take away pain points that happen in 3D printing, identify them and then take them away, we've done really good. We've helped progress the industry, and we've helped the end user. And that's our ultimate goal. You know, it touches us deeply when somebody has an issue. You know, that's why we do customer support. And it weighs on you if you really do feel like anytime somebody has an issue, it does touch you. Then when you're reading 20 emails that people are having problems, until I resolve them all, I don't feel good. You know, it's crazy, but it's one of those things that the Wham Bam started for its immediateness, its funness, and we try to carry it over in everything we do. And right from the start, we made two stickers. One said Wham Bam, thank you, ma'am, and the other one said Wham Bam, thank you, man, because we did not want to get into a sexist thing or a
Oh
preference
yeah, yep.
for everybody, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can pull the metrics for our YouTube channel and know which one is going to sell more, but doesn't mean that you should only do one. I've always loved the name. It was comical and whimsical to me from day one. I said, you know, they sound like the type of people that take things seriously, but clearly not too seriously. And that's the type of company that like I enjoy doing business with. Like 3D Musketeers as a name is
Right.
very similar, right? It's somewhat whimsical. Our logo is literally a
I have
3D wearing a hat.
I've complimented you already on the logo. I love it. I love the name. Yeah.
Well, you know, Thomas, of course, it was our brand czar for a little bit there and actually did the entire rebrand of the company. My dad is responsible for the name, which he'll never let me forget. He's waiting for his royalty checks. You know, whenever that can happen. But
you don't sell the name till you sell the company. But yeah.
No, you know, I don't know if we're ever going to sell this thing. I love what we do here, and you know, being able to kind of show off things like the Mutant. I mean, we did a piece with you guys a while back for the Wham Bam Mutant, the V2. So I'd love to kind of talk about that as well, because that, you know, the two kind of sections of Wham Bam, from my perspective as an outsider, are the flexible build plates, right? And you know, whether it's FDM or resin. And then it's the Mutant, which is the tool changer that doesn't require aligning pins and crap.
Yeah, we have 5 product lines we consider, right? We
Okay.
have the flexible build system for FDM, flexible build system for resin, the Mutant and all its side products, the hot box, and the slap mat. But
That's
please
right.
go.
I always forget about the hot boxes. I'm sorry.
That's okay. And there's a few other surprises coming over the next number of months. So that's great. But go ahead. You were going on about the Mutant. Please do.
Yeah, the Mutant, which I've enjoyed. We're going to be putting it onto an Ender 3 clone here pretty soon. And that is sometime in March, I'm hoping, that video will get filmed. And turn it into a bunch of different things to show off both wonderfulness and terrible things about the Ender. But that Mutant is really valuable. If you've only got one printer and you want to have more flexibility, that Mutant really does add to it. So I know that the one that we have the V2, clearly is not the first one.
It doesn't exist. The V1 doesn't exist anymore. It's now V2. And that's,
correct. Yeah, I know some of the history regarding the V1, but I'd love to talk about the Mutant in general, like where the idea from it came from, and you know, the fact that it really took off overnight. I mean, that thing was effectively an overnight sensation in the 3D printing community.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you see. We see 3 years of development on our own. But
I know, yeah. From like the consumer standpoint, it's like,
brand.
oh damn, ooh, I like these.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, every one of my machines, I used to be just an upgrade-aholic. If I could upgrade it, I'd upgrade it, you know. And like I said, I'd either upgrade with somebody else's stuff or create an upgrade in SolidWorks and put it out there. But every one of my machines, the hot end, I would always cut the umbilical cord and attach with quick connectors, because I knew that whenever I have to change that hot end or take it down for servicing, I don't want to, you know, take off the heater block, the thermistor, and
oh no, it's terrible.
The fans every single time. So I just unplug it. And even with that, I'd have a third of my machines down at any one time because they're waiting for me to find the valuable time of mine to actually go in there and service them, even though I made it pretty easy to uninstall a hot end. So I just really wanted some way to quick swap the hot end. That was the main point, because, and I'm sure any other of your viewers who have multiple machines have been through this as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, here's a Mutant. I happen to have one pre-prepared here.
I'll show you something new we're working on in a minute for the. But yeah, then you could take your Mutant and you could mount on there anything you want. This is the mobile plate on the back, and this has got, you know, this one has got a Creality hot end, but a really nice fan duct. I think this one's the hang tight version by James Tung. He helped co-design the Mutant, and Andy Soderberg, Hero Me did a bunch of other hot ends and contributions as well. We really wanted to work with people who knew all the different variations. And one of the beauties is I could switch between a 0.8 and a 0.14 nozzle on the fly. I could put on a direct drive with a Slice Engineering hot end, high performance on the fly. I could put on to and I'll tell you all the things we mounted to it, and it's fascinating.
You've got quite a few mounts there.
Yeah. Well, we put on pen plotters. You'd say, why do you need a pen plotter? I've got a 2D printer in my office. Well, the pen plotter allows you to print on any material. You could print on a wood block, but even more fun than that, we got a bunch of fabric markers, and we would do T-shirts, of all different colors. Jordan Mad Monkey was one who did one of the first experimentations with it.
He's in the comments as well. He's hanging out. He was wondering if he can get a bunk bed over at Wham Bam, and I think Bob was joking that you just can't be too you have to sleep very, very still, because otherwise it's going to flex you right off and you end up on the floor.
I'm not following the comments, sorry, because I have to look at this side.
Oh, it's all good. I've got it watching here. We got Brian Vines just hopped in, Maker Vikings hanging out, DSK Fernando's here as well. The crew, if you will.
But I'm happy to hear from everybody, and yeah, any of you who want to come and hang out and work with us, I'll get you a hotel room and we'll spend a weekend brainstorming and creating stuff. I mean, I love the community, but getting back to the Mutant. So then we mounted acid resist pens and we made PCBs. And we did it on metal and we etched metal. I'll show you some samples. It's really cool. Then we got a cake extruder from La Patisserie Numérique in France, and we printed icing. What a mess it was, but a lot of fun. Icing stuff. I've got a chocolate extruder on order. We got a ceramic extruder from Wasp in Italy, and we printed a porcelain vase that you might have seen in the video. If not, I'll show you in the conference room. When I brought this thing, it's so beautiful. I love the layer lines and everything. When I brought it to fire to a ceramic studio down the street, a traditional ceramic studio, everybody in the ceramic studio just gathered, and that was done on a 3D printer. No way. So we're out of business? No, the hand stuff is always welcome, but this lets you do it. Everybody, I invited everybody to the studio the next time we're ceramic printing, because I said, it's just so fascinating.
Yeah, you got to watch it, The
way we're fascinated with watching, FDM print layer line, when you first get your machine, everybody just sits there for 24 hours waiting for the print to get done. That same thing happens when you're using a new material. It's unbelievable. We put on crick cutters, vinyl cutters, and we first drew with a marker our own vinyls, and then we cut out the outlines. We put on dial gauges to check flatnesses and for quality control.
We're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing the pen plotters. We're going to be doing a lot of fun things.
Yeah, I can't even remember everything we've done, but the fact is we started just wanting to have a fast swap for maintenance.
Yep.
And we got into, your machine has all the mechatronics that you need to become anything. So the only thing limiting you is that hot end. And if you could make it swap out as quickly as possible and easy for the people. And then, of course, for the V2, you have the bare plate, the mobile plate, but it's riddled with these holes in the back with these square slots. That's the fixed plate, the other one. And the reason why is we want to make it as easy as possible for the user to mount anything they want to it.
Yeah, there's one of the plates itself. Lots and lots of mounting options. And, when I first got this, I looked at it and said, damn, this was an expensive injection mold.
That was the second one, because the V1 we threw away, unfortunately, But yeah, we did a nice job with the V2. I'm happy. I'm very happy with it. And we switched to Pogo pin connectors, so you get over 10,000 life cycles, which should be more than you'll ever need. Those Pogo pins are a lot of fun.
I am very used to these. Our big, so we actually have a Z Corp 650 and a ProJet 660 Pro for sale. If anyone wants to buy them, please hit me up. But they all use Pogo pins, and it's great on an FDM printer where you don't deal with powder, but Pogo pins and powder, very bad idea. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Then again, all contacts are a problem with powder, aren't they? Pogo pins, I guess you also have the friction too, so you're right.
Yeah. So they would wear out because the powder would get in between the inner and outer pin and wear through it to a
Oh
point
my,
where it would no longer electrically
it
connect.
was an abrasive. It was an
It
abrasive,
was an
right?
abrasive, yeah. So the trick was to, you get a brand new one and you slather it with dielectric grease.
Hmm.
And the dielectric grease will catch the powder, and then you
Sure.
clean off the dielectric grease every 5 or 6 prints. Yes, that often, with alcohol, and you reapply it. And
This is a good point. Anybody with a mutant, don't use powder.
yeah, well, don't use powder with an FDM printer, right?
In
There,
general, you don't want it getting on the circuit boards. You know, it's
or the rails, or the
the
wheels.
rails. Yep.
Powder and moving parts, don't do that. If anyone wants to, maybe one day I'll do a teardown of an $80,000 3D printer and show people what they look like on the inside, because it's not pretty. But yeah, the mutant to me is, I guess the way that I look at it, I said, this is perfect for someone, even if you're starting, or like for us as farmers, if you will, the 3D printing farming. The way that what's the bear guy's name? You said it earlier.
The bear guy. You're talking about James Tung or
No.
Soderbergh?
Soderbergh, yes, yeah, Soderbergh. I was talking to him on Thursday. He's
Yeah.
in the Prusa Farm group with Pooch's farm group, and
he did a great.
he was showing off the Prusa plate, and I said,
Prusa one, yeah.
"Damn it!" And I'm buying another Mark III's, so I got to do it. I got to do it.
And for the print farmer or even the person with multiple machines, one of the best things that I've found, I love it in my own. We have, I'll show you later. I think we have 7 FDM machines or something like that. We have more than that we have to put into a closet because we don't have room for them. But once you set up a head and you have a mutant system, as long as they're all wired similar, and on our support page we give our recommended wiring diagram,
right?
Then you could move that head to any machine. So maybe, you originally thought you're going to use this direct drive slice with a 1 millimeter nozzle on your CR10, but you've got a reason to run it on your Ender 3 or any other machine. You just bring it over and do it. And we worked on, and we're working on another version, but we worked on a new firmware that allows you from the UI of the machine to choose the settings and parameters of the toolhead you're using. So you don't have to flash between uses. So I can go from E3D thermistor to a standard, Creality one or a slice. I could set all my settings for each tool and go to laser. Yeah, it's super. Now we're working with Slowbro, a Marlin programmer, who's creating a Marlin authorized version, or whatever you're calling it, certified, Marlin accepted. It's going to become a part of the Marlin build opportunities. And we're looking for beta testers for anybody who wants to try it. By the way, I do want to talk. Can I talk about beta testers for a second?
By all means. But before we get too far into that, I do want to thank Jimmy. He dropped a little bit of cash, 20 SEK. It's Swedish kroner. So, but yeah, thanks, Jimmy. I appreciate helping chip in. And he said, great interview, learning more than I expected. See, that's why you all should come and hang out with us live. It's way more fun that way.
That's super.
Yeah, let's talk about beta testing for a minute, because that is that could be a sore subject sometimes.
But for us, it's the greatest thing in the world. We wouldn't be anywhere if it wasn't for our beta testers, our contributors, and our community. Even from before the Kickstarter, the very first ones, we had a select group of beta testers giving us great feedback. And what happens is you work with different people. Some people are more expert of 3D printing materials, some firmware, some of machines. Some are using it for one thing, for miniatures, others are using it for giant stuff. And also they have different machines you don't have. The first time we ever did for Delta machines, I still to this date, embarrassingly don't own a Delta machine.
It's fine. They're beautiful. Like one of my favorite printers to watch, one of my least favorite printers to work on. They're atrocious. But once they're calibrated, they run like Swiss watches, man. They're great.
Yeah. My father-in-law in Italy is a automation designer for packaging. Can fill 10,000 cigarettes into cartons in 1 minute, whatever it is.
No kidding.
And they use Delta pack and pickers, pick and pack.
Yep.
Constantly. So when he saw the first Delta machines, he's like, "Oh, this is a piece of cake. We use this daily in the industry." But for me, I just haven't gotten one yet. I'd love to get one. I have a bucket list of everything that I'd love to get. If I was just a tinkerer, I'd have everything right now. But right now we purchase the things that are most crucial for Wham Bam to have. So anyway, the beta testers have different machines, different experiences, different everything. And we rely on them to give us negative feedback as well as positive. We're not waiting for the pat on the back. You did a great job. Hey, this material is sticking like crazy. I'll have some beta testers do like 100 tests. What's making it stick? Is it the temperature? Is it too close to the hot end? Whatever it is. We try to improve our products as much as we can before you ever go live to the market. Our typical product cycle is over a year till it goes to the market, unfortunately. I love
the way it should. But I mean, look, it takes a while, but when you launch it, you guys don't generally have issues, right? No. Let's look at all the 3D printing Kickstarters. There's definitely one that's not coming to my mind that I'm not a part of that I think is jumping the gun, but I'm not going to mention any names. But that will jump guns because, oh, it did fine with the 3 people that we beta tested with. That's not good enough. It does take a while.
Yeah, it takes a long time. And, I can't thank them enough. And some of them are in the group. Thank you, beta testers. At a certain point, our mutant beta testers, they were so special to us. We even made a limited edition hoodie, sweater with, official beta tester on it. It means so much to us. And we've developed our company through repetitive testing, various feedback, because we don't know the machine that the person is going to mount our goods to. We don't know their printing conditions. We have no way of foreseeing if a manufacturer changes something on us. We need constant feedback. It's quite interesting, and they're as big of an importance to us as our own internal team, as our production team. So it's great stuff.
Yeah, beta, and actually, I am working on a product. I'll have to talk to you about it off stream, that we will be sending out to some beta people. But even if it doesn't sell, I need it for my own personal farm anyways, so I don't really care. Yeah. But I have just under a dozen of the machines that it's designed for, so I'm gonna beta it myself. I have 11 printers that are all different sizes, so and different needs, different desires to them. So beta testing is incredibly important. If you launch a product without testing, you're going to find out the hard way. And having to do like those hot fixes doesn't look good, right? Now,
yeah, we always have to make choices, later on in production, if we find an error, how we're going to deal with it, if we're going to dispose of $100,000 of goods or rework it or whatever. And it's hard choices to make. By the way, if you don't mind, let me get into the process from design to production, if you don't mind.
Sure, because totally.
Interesting. At first we start always here in Florida, hacking together a prototype, whether it's cutting a sheet of metal or making a piece of cardboard to understand the volume, whatever it is. And we start testing our prototypes. But as soon as possible, we need our manufacturers to make a prototype on their own, because we need to know what materials and processes they're using, what the limitations are, what the general costs are going to be. We don't own our factories in China. It's very, very difficult to own a factory in China, and quite expensive and a lot of bureaucracy. But what we do is we choose a few select factories that we do a partnership with, and we invest heavily in their machinery. So we'll buy special heads for a laser printer to be able to do for a laser cutter, to be able to do a whole texture. We'll buy a giant vacuum chamber. We'll buy very expensive machinery, not just our own molds and tools, but machinery for that factory and partnership, so that we have this intimate relationship with them. Even the magnets, I mean, the other magnets out there frequently are just off the shelf common refrigerant magnets. And there's quite a few OEM suppliers making them, but our magnets are created for incredible performance, both strength and magnetism. We invented a few different really neat tricks and materials, but also to resist either heat or chemicals, depending on what you're doing. So,
which is a big issue. We talk about print fails every Friday on Print Fix Friday, the series that we do, and there have been more than one that have been because they've had specifically on resin, where they have a cheap generic flex plate on there, and the magnet isn't strong enough to overcome the suction force to the build plate or to the FEP sheet, and the part literally warps because the metal plate is warping. I'm like, stop buying cheap shit, people.
Yeah, I mean, in my point of view, everybody's free to do what you want, but
That's
you're
fair.
making an
I'll say
upgrade.
it for you.
Yeah, please. But you're making an upgrade to your machine.
Yeah.
You're decided to improve and upgrade. So put on an upgrade that you can trust, that is somebody's put a lot of time and thought into making it a better thing. Don't just throw something on because it's the cheapest thing out there, especially the knockoffs and things that did not spend the R&D dime or really try to push the realm. Everything we do, like I said, so we make the prototypes. When it's finally good for us, we still don't go to production. Then I have a mini series made and they go out to the beta testers again. And the beta testers, some of them go through incredible leaps and bounds. Jeff, I'm not going to mention names, is one that right now is testing out for the Jupiter, really large scale, some new ideas we have to really increase the strength. And he's doing real empirical scientific testing for us. We've had so many great testers out there. And so we go through that until we're sure that the product we want is to the level of performance and quality that we would consider Wham Bam. Then we go into production, and only if it can match our price point. We have to balance what the actual cost of goods and the market's needed and the cost of shipping with what is the perceived value to the end user. I mean, if it costs more than, if everybody judges by how much they paid for the 3D printer, which is unfortunate because
the printers are too damn cheap.
Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing. If it was 6 years ago, no, but the printer for $5,000, $100 upgrade is not a problem. But now that you can get the printer for $200, it's crazy. So we go through quite a process between coming up with an idea, testing it, testing again with beta testers, improving, and then sending to production. And all this time, we are custom forming our own materials, custom forming production techniques, custom forming packaging. Shipping is a big problem. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag with an announcement. We've just created the Mega Hotbox, the Hotbox Mega. So it's for 300 by 300 by 400 machines like the CR10. And it's a wonderful tool. It's amazing. It's finally ready for sale. We're in production. But shipping costs a fortune because of the volume. And end users, we don't want to pass that on to them. So we've got to build it into our own profits. We have to take it out of the profits and the costs in order to make it reasonable for everybody. But there are so many different things you've got to think about. Sometimes I've already killed probably 20 great products, honestly, for Wham Bam, because they just wouldn't meet our expectations for either price or logistics.
That's a big deal, right? I don't think that it's understood, and maybe I guess I don't really have a better way to show it to people, right? Or how you could show it, all the R&D that goes into making it right. Because ultimately, like you said, people say, well, why would I spend X when the printer only costs Y? Well, do you want your printer that costs Y to cost you Y times 2? Or do you want it to cost you Y plus X?
Yes.
And to show that steps, to show the process of the beta testing, of the prototyping, of the things that did not make it off the cutting room floor, at least for me, someone that's in product development, I find that uniquely interesting. Yeah. Because it's like, people that go up to people and say, wow, that's a really cool car. It's a really cool car, but what choices did you make in your life that brought you to the point that you were willing to spend that kind of money on the car? I want to know, where in your life did you make that decision? Where did that spark happen? And the same thing with the product development, because likely if something's left on the cutting room floor, is because it inspired something better, or it was just an absolute piece of garbage and did not deserve to make it out into the real world.
Even our hot box, it started off as a pieced together aluminum tube frame with these corner connectors and a slide over fabric covering. It didn't have the insulation qualities and characteristics we were after. It was clunky to put together. You definitely couldn't easily take it off of your machine.
Yep.
And we abandoned that and we decided to go with this construction of like a honeycomb polypropylene panel sandwiched between a metallic layer and a ballistic nylon to get the structure, the speed of setting up and taking down, and the insulation. And the funny thing is, the cut and sew factory we were working with, they couldn't do that. We had to go somewhere else. And before we were ready to launch ours, like a week before we we're going to launch ours, Creality comes out with their hotbox, and it's exactly the same one as we were working on. I don't know this for a fact, but it was too coincidental that it was these snap together rods and corners. I don't know if the factory that we abandoned happened to leak something, but we make decisions. It would have been a lot easier for us to do that. Shipping would have been so easy. It's so small and unbulky, but for the end user, is it really bringing them the utility and value and use?
It is all about that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it. We risk our reputation with every product we do. We can't put out a product without it having a positive or negative bearing on the reputation. So we have to be very sure of that.
Yeah, I have not used a hotbox yet. The plan is, when we look at getting a larger printer, or my big printer that's sitting over here that nobody's ever seen, is to look at either getting a hotbox for it or building one that can kind of fit the bill. Because one, I think the name is beautiful. I think that is probably the best name for a literal container that you put your printer in. Hotbox is probably the best name. I've seen them before. A lot of my buddies have them. Seeing how they collapse down with the way our shelves are, where there's there's about 3 inches above the printer, it'd be very difficult for us to take it in and out of a hotbox. And
you could also leave. I mean, I have one printer that I leave the hot box on, and 3 more that are folded down.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of uses for it, and you've got to plan your space around it.
It's the stuff up there that will one day get a hot box. Where
there we go. I if you look at my early videos, whether they're on the Wham Bam YouTube or my own personal, but you'll see I had built an enclosure out of welded aluminum and plexiglass, and this was so many years ago. The whole point was, I knew I wanted to print ABS and nylon. You can't do that without an enclosure, especially for higher heights than the build plate will heat up accurately. And I really knew that there was a need for an enclosure. I think Printed Solid, a couple others had some plexiglass enclosures. Yep. I wanted something that was a lot more flexible and easy for the end user to just put on any machine. And we came up with, what I think is just the perfect solution. And we've got a couple, I can't even allude to it till we're ready, but great variations, the hotbox coming out, helping users to do new things. So it's real cool.
And that's why it's kept me away from most of the enclosures, is like the full acrylic enclosures are bulky. They're a pain in the ass to set up. And if you do want to take them down, they don't easily come down. The hot box, like Jordan was saying, pro tip, do not throw out the cardboard box. They come in, cut the top only, and use the shipping box as a storage case. I have seen this work.
Jordan, we do that. That is funny that you said it. Yeah. That's great. That's great.
But yeah, the hot box.
And there are things built into the hot box that people might ask, what are they for? And soon you'll see the accessories we're doing. We did start to mount little elastic loops in the front, so our LED light bars can fit in there, so you can light it up. Mm-hmm. There's other things we're developing for use within the hot box environment, as well as new hot box variations for other fields and sectors. So it's kind of cool. They're hard. I mean, they're hard to produce. It's a slow cut and sew process of laminating these multiple materials together. They're not used to running through a sewing machine, an industrial sewing machine, something that has a big thick piece of honeycomb material in there and everything else. But we're working with the factory to really get them up to speed so they can make all the variations we're talking about and provide them. But they're fun products. Without one, I don't know where I'd be. I'd still have that aluminum one on one machine only, and be wishing I had it for others personally. Everything I do it also for my own personal egocentric use. Like you said, you're going to do anything that you're about to make because you need them in your own space. So
right.
I use flexi plates on every FDM and resin machine I have. I use slat mats and everything in the hot box, and MUTANT set up on everything but one machine right now. So, if I don't believe in them, it's not our product.
I would agree. I don't use the slat mats for our products, but they're also on shelves that I don't care about what happens to them. Otherwise, I would use slat mats.
Slat mat, get it under your resin printers, because it catches those drips that'll eventually get transferred everywhere else. And cleaning your head, it makes it easier. But apart from that, keep a slap mat handy for when you're doing any electronic builds or you're taking apart your hot end. The screws stay put, the electronics stay safe.
Yeah, your guys' mats are crazy thick.
Yeah.
Like, and you know,
People
yes.
always get a dog mat or something like that. We made it thick so you'd be able to carry it out into the sunlight if you have a spill and let it cure and get it in. You're paying for the volumetric area of high-grade silicone. You're not paying for the 2D area. The actual thickness adds triple the weight of material in there that a thin one would. But we wanted that quality mat once again. It makes no sense to make something if it's not going to be an improvement. We wanted something that's going to stand up. It'll stand up to a soldering iron to solder. You could mix epoxies on there. You could spray paint on there. I mean, the thing is great. We use it everywhere. And we find people using it for the craziest thing. There was a crafter who doesn't have a single 3D printer who bought one and sent us photos of how she makes these epoxy earrings on them and things.
Yep.
It's wonderful.
Silicone's great, and damn it, I'm gonna have to do a video about the slap mat now because Brian Vines just gave me the intro. Getting slapped with the slap mat is gonna be the cold roll intro for that video. I'm sure the Better Three Quarters is gonna hate to slap me with a big big slap mat. She's gonna hate doing that.
I hate to do that, right? Come on, just hit me.
Whack, and just the sound of silicone. It is there is a known sound to that.
We have fun with our naming because just like the name Wham Bam, we want to have fun with everything and just trying to figure out the right name that embodies it, but it resonates with the people. The hard part is we have trademarks on slap mat and our other names, but I still see these Chinese things listing their product as a slap mat, as if that's a general category. We invented that name for a silicone mat. That's not a category. No. So eventually we're going to crack down a little bit on, Amazon and such, but yeah, it's a fun product, a fun name.
That is part of the system that people don't think about, right? The industry is historically poo-pooed companies that patent, copyright, and trademark things. And E3D is feeling a bit of heat right now with everything surrounding the Revo. I think it is undeserved. I firmly believe patents exist for a reason. But part of patents, copyrights, and trademarks is they're invalidated if you don't actually enforce them. So not only are you paying to have it done, it's like $375 plus God knows how long, all the extra office actions. Okay, it's $375 if you do it yourself. If you have a lawyer and all that do it, it can definitely cost a lot more. But
you're trademarks, you have $700, whatever, and plus lawyer fees. Patents, you're looking at maybe $2,000 for a full utility patent for United States. Then do you want to do Europe? Do you want to do China? Do you want to do other countries? And just put all that money aside if you're going to get into that, because it costs money to do it. And like you said, you've got to enforce it. Otherwise, it's not worth anything. But, I'd love to also speak to this, the patent open source discussion. Please. We were knocked a little bit for patenting the mutant. And it's kind of unfortunate because we have always shared everything. We share our models, we share how to do it yourself, we share our tools. And we're trying to establish right now some kind of a format with a bunch of other manufacturers that shares kind of a Creative Commons usage of patents. We would love tinkerers and anybody else to use our technology and our knowledge and go further with it and do it. We're not trying to stop people. We're not hoarding a technology. And I know that the open source is most afraid because of what Stratasys did with the heater patent. That was terrible.
That stifled the industry.
That stifled growth.
Yeah, this is not, the patent surrounding this is not to stifle the growth. It's to keep clones off the friggin' market.
That's the only one we're going to enforce, are going to be the commercial derivative of the same exact method. We don't want somebody putting out the same thing in a crappy way. I've heard, I don't know if I want to name names, but I've heard of a major extruder manufacturer who's received clones returned from his customers saying this is faulty, and it's obviously a clone. They're buying the clones, and I fully support the open source. We at Wham Bam, and we give back to the community and we share. And I don't mind if a tinker makes any upgrades and welcome it. I'd love to see what you do. Maybe it helps us. Maybe it
saves R&D cost.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's that kind of growth is we're very interested in promoting it.
Yeah.
But when we patent, it's to slow down a little bit of those really cheap knockoffs, so we could actually recoup a little bit of our investment. And if you take away the opportunity to patent, if you just bash it, well, then the only people innovating are going to be the small time unemployed or people with a lot of time on their hands who are going to explore and innovate. But the companies can't do it. They can't afford to spend a year R&Ding and setting up tooling and setting up everything else if it's just going to be knocked off as soon as it goes to market, which happens to all of our products. So even the open source, the community, I think would benefit from accepting the fact that patents are a good thing because they allow the companies to continually do R&D and innovate, as long as the companies have a very responsible approach to their patents, right? And so hopefully we can spearhead in a new Creative Commons patent terminology so everybody can understand this.
We talked a while back with David Stein about this. He's a patent lawyer, and he said it's common to see something like you're saying in the oil and gas industry, where one company will patent it, but they will license it to all of the people they want to license it to for $1.
Yeah.
Because what they're doing is they're allowing whoever wants to make it go ahead, but they're keeping some of the problematic companies, the Chinese geometric unnamed companies that everyone definitely knows who I'm referencing, from becoming a problem, because they have and they will. And what happens when those companies become
Elon
a
Musk
problem?
has said the same thing. You're right. There's so many of us who have said it.
It cuts into the bottom line. And if you are forced to rush something to market before it gets cloned, and you don't have ownership of it, your company will never grow. And ultimately, badass products like this cease to exist because there is no money to make them grow.
I think that all of the people who love innovation in design should think about their stance on it, because then you're like you said, we're going to stop getting companies who have a bigger overhead from doing meaningful innovation. You're just going to rely on the few things that come out of the retired hobbyist or the person who comes up with a single great idea who doesn't do it. By the way, trademarks is crazy because we're doing a new product. We have no intention. We didn't have any intention of trademarking the name because we don't feel like we needed to. But our lawyers suggested to us that we have to do it because if not, some other company, a Chinese company or otherwhere, is going to take the name and trademark it and then sue us for using it. So it's this double-edged sword. Sometimes you're getting a patent just so that others don't take out a patent and claim they did it first and sue you. Excuse me again. Another thing to say also, by the way, if you make a meaningful improvement on a patent, you have full rights to patent that yourself.
Correct. It must be novel, unique, and non-obvious.
Yes. So if you really improve on it and take it to another step, you're welcome to get a patent yourself. No matter, even if you're going against a hoarding company who doesn't want you to, you can go to a patent office and file for it and do it yourself. So there's lots of opportunity.
Yeah, this whole issue of patents in this industry, like, quite frankly, the entire US patent system needs a generic overhaul with people that actually give a damn about patent protection and, dealing with it. But I think it has to be like a worldwide thing, and it never will be. It's a shame because, like you said, it has and will slow growth of products from Wham Bam, from companies like E3D, from Printed Solid, and from other, direct manufacturers. It will slow things down because
Slice Engineering, BMG,
Slice, BMG,
great research, and it's a shame if something gets knocked off right away. And I had another thought. It's gone. Never mind. Go on, please. I'll come back to it. We have so many things we're touching on. My mind's all over the place.
Well, this kind of like shoehorns us good into what is the hardest part of being an inventor, because this is an invention. And if anyone disagrees with me, go look up the definition of an invention. the mutant is an invention. So what is the hardest thing about being an inventor? It's not easy.
Yeah, I don't know if I could say what the hardest thing is, but I can say that inventions come from the people who are not satisfied with things as they are, right? They don't just accept things for the status quo. I'm a person who, anything that I see, if it has a problem for, my mind's already going, how can I improve that? And half the time I'm going into SolidWorks and making it and printing it to improve the thing, whether or not it's ever going to be commercial. The hardest part in being an inventor, in my opinion, is being a real meaningful disruptor, saying, I'm not afraid to change the way it's been going with some real disruption, even though many of my peers, whatever, out of jealousy or fear or whatever else, might knock me for it. I remember when I was in junior high school, I had a wood shop class, and the teacher said, do whatever you want. And most people were making like jewelry boxes or something. And I always wanted a pinball machine at home, and my parents wouldn't buy it for me, rightly so. I wouldn't buy one for my kids. So I decided I was going to make a pinball machine, a very ambitious project. And I still remember one kid in particular, but quite a few would come up and give it up, Solomon, you're never going to do it, And in the end, I did it all with rubber bands and very simple electronics. And
just
I made
big middle fingers to all those kids.
Yeah. I didn't even need to do the middle. I was just content that I did it. And I guess that essence of being content probably burned him up. But, there's always going to be people who tell you, you can't do that. You're just this person. You have no... I made a production of face shields. I made a company to do that. I don't know if I told you about it when COVID came out. I know that I can't solve the world's problems. All of us were 3D printing. All of us that cared, many of us were 3D printing face shields. I asked a lot of the local people to help me. When the doctors were writing back with tears in their eyes and letters that touched my heart, that we're really making a difference, anything we can get them is more than enough. And I didn't have enough printers or time or friends to do it. I ran a GoFundMe campaign, opened up a company and made injection molds, first in China, now also in Florida, because wanted to do something, for the world that can come from me. So, you sometimes, and at first I even told my father, I'm thinking about doing this just because every so often I bounce things off of him. He's a doctor. He's a very conservative person, very logical person, exactly the opposite of an artistic mind like me. And I like having the contrast. And he's like, you're crazy. How much of this money are you taking out of your own pocket? I'm putting a little in, but I just got to get it going. He said, don't even do it. You don't know what the medical field wants for these. I'm like, okay. And I did it anyway, of course. Luckily we were able to distribute something like 70,000 face shields initially. Wow. After I gave my design for the molds to a company in Brazil and another in South Africa for free, because the whole intention was just getting them out.
Yeah, we were trying to save people. We shut down for 3 weeks, produced almost 2,000. My buddy in Bradenton, who does the injection molding shop, he said, all right, you start printing, I'm starting to cut. I'll let you know as soon as I'm ready, because I'll be able to make 10,000 a day. Exactly. And about like 3 weeks on the nose, he called me and said, Grant, I'm shooting them. It's time for you to stop. Give me all the people you're working with, and I'll provide them with it. And we both donated everything. Like my entire staff donated their time for 3 weeks. Yeah. We ran 24/7. Those were unprecedented times.
People like you, and there's quite a few of us in the 3D printing community just really spoke up. Partly, my work was down for the design studio, and I wanted to do something as you did. And when you realize how valuable that was, as a designer or a 3D printer, how can you change the world? You're not going to stop wars or whatever else, or resolve major political conflicts. Yeah. Well, this was a chance for us to step up, and it was really gratifying. And the best thing is speaking with some of the people that received it and receiving letters that you never expected.
We got a few thank yous. It's nice.
Harlem Pediatric Emergency Room doctors and nurses wrote me a letter with a photograph saying, the world keeps saying it doesn't affect kids. We have so many kids intubated and dying every day, and what you just did is going to save so many lives. They were told by the hospital that they had to either reuse their face masks for 9 days, they didn't have enough, or wrap a T-shirt around their head.
Yeah, my better half, and I normally call her the better 3/4. She's an ICU nurse, so front line, right there, involved in all of it. So yes, a lot of that inspiration came from her. And when everything happened, just seeing her come home every single day, had the absolute hell beaten out of her, more emotionally than physically, but she was physically tired as well. And
those people
yeah,
are the heroes. The
yeah,
nurses, really,
that's
really.
why she's the better three-quarters. She saves lives. I make plastic stuff.
Yeah, we can't even compete on goodness, and kindness and self-giving.
And that to me was kind of like the high point for this industry, where everyone collectively said,
Oh,
we
yeah,
have a solution, and
yeah.
everyone came together. I was
People
working with
putting
some of
ear
my
savers and
yes.
everything else.
Oh, we did those
Yeah.
on the laser. Those were like so quick on the laser. Like we could do 600 of them in 2 hours on the laser.
And we all use our own material, our own time, our own efforts, right?
Yep.
I want setting up a commercial company because to be able to fulfill 2 hospitals, they can't take donations for the most part. You have to be able to sell it. So we just made for every sale, we have also a payback program in donations, and it was nice, but we're deviating again.
No, see, that's the most rewarding part of being an inventor, right? Is being able to help others and see your products help. The hardest part is getting to that point.
Yeah.
And so, Wham Bam, how long have you guys been in business now?
So
how many years?
April will be on our 4th year, unbelievable.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and it's funny because Melinda even said to me today, we have to start changing some of our materials. Our thank you note says we're a young and growing company. And I guess at this point in 3D printing, 4 years isn't so young anymore.
Don't remind me, I'm 6 years deep into this, okay? And we had a couple of really rough years.
Yeah,
but there's always that saying that like 80% of small businesses fail within the first 5 years. Did you ever doubt yourself, or were there ever like these moments of shit, if this doesn't work out, we're out for Wham Bam? Did that ever happen?
No, absolutely not. Just every second of my waking day. Every second of my day.
I'm like, this guy's gonna come in here and tell me that's never happened. I'm killing this live stream now. Yeah.
I mean, the only thing I can do to stop thinking about our products or worrying about our decisions is either see a movie that really gets me deep into it. I love, going to the cinema and it detaches me, or watching a great movie on there, or practice a martial arts. I go in, I'm doing something very physical, and I need something like that. If I'm even just sitting at the dinner table, sometimes my wife or kids are like, what are you thinking about? What's going on in your head?
You're just staring off into the distance. There's numbers happening.
And until it's selling, you have no verification. You have the beta testers that says this is the best thing since sliced bread. Great. But is the world going to really accept this? And did we do it right? Did we do it for the right price? They're always self-doubting. Unfortunately, a creative is like that. My mother is a painter, a fine artist. She paints over her old paintings. I get so angry with her. Just get a new canvas. She just looks at something she did and she's embarrassed for it, even though it's a work of mastery to me. And you're, as a creative person, you're always doubting yourself. You could have always done it better. You look back at something done 5 years ago and you could do it better today.
If you are not embarrassed by the work you did 5 years ago, you're not trying hard enough. I don't think.
Right? Just like you don't make mistakes, you're not risking enough.
Yeah.
If you're not embarrassed, you're not improving. You need to put yourself out there. You need to take some chances. We have some things we had to discontinue in Wham Bam. We have different things that we're constantly trying to improve. Sometimes it doesn't need improvement, but I'm just such a stickler. Anybody who works under me in the creative departments or technical departments, they either have to get used to me having them redo it 1,000 times or leave, because that's the way it is. We have a very iterative process that if it's just not getting there where I want it, we're going to try again. We're going to try again. We're going to try again.
Yeah. Iteration, of course, with the value of 3D printing is amazing, right? Where you can quickly and effectively iterate. I would say we're doing that behind me, but I did not get the print started in time for them to run during the podcast, but we should be in full production right now. Like I said, it was a rough night and a very early morning, but that's what I love about this industry. We don't have to accept that something is the way that it is. Great example, making a part for my laser. This is the head with the lens in it for the laser. And a buddy of ours made a laminar flow nozzle head for it. Eric, he's in the comments. And I stupidly just printed it, thinking, it's going to fit mine. So I have earned my demerit badge from Tested, the measure once, cut twice, because this is way too small for the one that he did. So we went back to the drawing board. We iterated it. We have a brand new file. It's going to print in resin. It'll be done in 5 hours, and it'll be beautiful when it's done. That's what I love about this industry.
How many iterations do you do for any new design? For me, I always wind up with a bucket of like 10. You'll never get it right on the first try. It doesn't matter how many measurements you take.
For the personal project that I'm working on that we're going to share with the world, I can share it with you when we're off alive, but we're going to share it with the world hopefully in the next 3 months. I am on iteration 6.
Yep.
And
I used to keep boxes of them. I started throwing them away.
I have them all. I have them all. Well, we have a Patreon, so when this product is officially released, I will send the original I'm going to keep number 1, right? Number 1 is so you can see where it went, but 2 through whatever the most recent one is, they will go out to patrons because it's their support that enables me to spend the time to build that. They're not going to work. I'm going to send them real ones too, but they're going to have
a limited edition number or something. Yeah,
I'll hand sign them and all that. But yeah,
I used to keep all of my initial models because there were times in the past where we would be awarded an award. The museum would say, we'd like to put it on display with your models. Oh, darn, I didn't keep it. And used to keep everything. Now, thank goodness for moves, because you start doing a move, it's like, what should we do with this box of stuff? Throw it out, otherwise you're 90% storage, unfortunately.
Well, that's a nice thing about 3D printed parts. For the vast majority of it, it's all recyclable. So we can, and this is all FDM printed. So I'll be able to take it to the local recycling center and they'll grab it. I don't have to feel that bad. I still feel bad, but I don't have to feel that bad. So like, what was your biggest doubt or biggest challenge with Wham Bam so far?
It's always growth related. Are we ready to hire more people or do this ourselves or take on a big task? Because it always comes down to, is your next big cost decision going to sink us? I mean, are we going to be able to afford to do that? Unfortunately, we'd love to do so many things, but yeah, I mean, and then I always have doubts about anything, whether, we come up with a name and I apply for the trademark and then the next day I go, I don't like that name, we got to change it. Or, just the way that we've resolved something, we might go back to the table and do it again. The simplest of products always start with the most complex first thoughts and iterations. When it's really so sophisticated that anybody goes, that's so obvious and simple, that's usually a result of streamlining until it's just so perfect,
Right,
when it finally is there, you go, oh, this is it. This is the essence. And it's great. I'll show you guys a couple of things we're working on. I can't show too many, obviously, but
yeah, I don't want you getting in trouble for this. Don't blame this one on me.
Thank goodness I'm the CEO, but yeah, I'll hear from it. But we're working on this workstation for the MUTANT that allows you to put the mobile plate on and have a set bed height. You with a thumb screw, you could set the bed height. So every hot end that you're adjusting, you could do it to. And then Andrew, our ex-tech guy, made a mount even that's movable for your ABL or BL Touch, so that you could then set the height so you're not recalibrating for every tool change, and even made this nice little spacer to go onto it so that
for the BL
you have the right height every single time. And this way, whether you're putting on a ceramic print or a laser or whatever, you have some kind of a measure. So you're not re-leveling, or you might just do a teeny little tweak, or if you've got a bed level or you've got it.
You've blown my mind. I mean, that is literally the simplest thing that will make a massive difference to every MUTANT owner out there.
Yeah. And you just set one up and you work on it. The great thing is you have full access from the back. I don't know if you see that.
Oh yeah, you do.
Real thick aluminum, because we wanted to hold with these just 2 little prongs. You just slide it on easily and slide it off. But when it's down there, you could put anything, mount anything. You have access to your screws and bolts. And you could test things, and not only are you using it just to take apart a hot and service your piece without it rolling around, but you're also setting it up for its final use on the machine. Right?
That's brilliant. That's looking at what is my pain point with my product. What is something that I wish we had? Well, we can 3D print, the extra holders that don't have pogo pins so we can store the tool heads. but that calibration is really a concern, especially if you're running a farm and you want to hot swap tool heads in. I don't want to spend all the time to re-level my damn tool heads. So if they're all leveled to the exact same point, that swap, I don't even have to do anything. I just click print and go. Just make sure I update, you know, whatever settings I need to update. Everything else is click print and go. That's valuable.
And make sure you guys get on our mailing list, because, you know, I'm sure that's going to be part of our special promotions and Win It Wednesdays and stuff like that, apart from being available on the website to purchase.
Boy, I wonder how he knows that, ladies and gentlemen.
I had some inside little information being shared.
You might know someone or two, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, we have so many projects that are in the pipeline. We have at least 15 or 20. That one's, I've already given the go ahead for production, so I'm showing it to everybody. And
is that just aluminum, like bent sheet metal?
Yeah, it's bent and milled and worked. You know, let me show you the final one. And powder paint, and anodized, but it's a thick bent sheet metal.
Dude.
Very, very robust. I mean, you can't.
Is that a ruler on there too, so I could get it set dead on?
You decide on your height that's ideal for you. For your, obviously, a Cartesian FDM is different than a Core XY, is different than any other setup. So you decide on the line that's right for you.
Right.
And so we have one heavier line, which is one of the heights that we suggest, but you're welcome to slide this thing. You know, let me turn the thumb screw. Slide this where you want it, position it, lock it in, and you're good to go. And it has an anti-slip pad on the bottom. You know, just
I see the logo on there too. Is that laser engraved or is that just pad printed?
Pad printed, yeah. And the whole thing's been anodized and will be anodized. So
we got to get you guys a fiber laser, or, you know, send some up to me so we can number like the first 100 or something, and do some sort of custom initial run.
You know what we did for the guitar, which was really interesting when we were trying to fund that. We took reservations with a deposit, and we gave everybody a chemically etched. Can I grab something for a second?
Go ahead.
You'll stay absent for a half a second.
Go. This is so cool. I want one of those holders, man. That's awesome.
I'll get you one. Anything you want, Grant. You just let us know. But
10
anyway,
of everything. Box it up.
Send us the list.
Joking.
So we gave everybody this little desktop stand. And this was the reservation place in line. So it had their number on there. We replaced it by XXX. If you reserved number 1, number 7, what is there? There's dirt on there. You had your place in line.
Yeah.
And this was a chemical etch cut part that was all numbered for the first 100 pieces that we sold. So
that's pretty cool.
This is before there was ever a Kickstarter. We financed the tooling and the startup through advanced reservations. So there are a limited edition 100 guitars out there that are numbered. I think that's kind of interesting too.
That is, right? That adds a little bit of extra special to it. And it's not the way that Lamborghini does it, where it's 1 of 350. No, it's number 7 of 100. It's number 45.
I had a person who was already like the 3rd on the list, but he asked me for number 7 because he wanted 007.
Everyone wants James Bond.
Yeah, it was also on the guitar. I mean, the limited edition ones had actually the number also lasered into the plate. Yeah,
I won't lie. I would have done the same thing. It's similar to when I found out that when you buy a Prusa printer, if you put in the notes, do you mind if Joe signs it? Joe will actually sign printers.
Yeah,
I got to get to it. Yeah, no, Grant, your head's moving the wrong way. There's Joe's signature on one of our printers. And I waited 3.5 weeks extra for it. Don't care. Worth it. Yeah. Worth every non-penny that I paid for it.
And I have nothing but admiration for Prusa. He's just brilliant, and all the personal touches are what counts.
See, we got to get some signed by the Wham Bam team. Like the first 50 mutants that go out should be signed or something. Yeah. You know, I think that personalization brings back the human element to it, that you're not just a company that buys things out of China and sells it. You are a manufacturer that is just utilizing more affordable labor so that you're able to hit a price point that makes sense, still lets you hit the margins you need to hit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because, we're either perceived as, some people say they're not even a company. They just are buying stuff, and we don't buy anything and put our brand on it and resell it. Nothing. We develop our stuff. Or they think that we're some mega company that doesn't have, a person behind it, or people behind it, or personal support. It's hard to express that we're this medium-sized company growing, but every one of us here cares with our hearts. I mean, we have heated arguments at times, not because we hate each other, but because we're so passionate about it, whether it's Melinda and I going at it because of marketing or sales price point or whatever, or me and somebody else. And, we're, in the end, we're all friends, and we
Yep.
talk about the after, but we're passionate about what we do, and we're doing it for a passionate group of people. And, it's so hard to communicate that, but hopefully the people who have dealt with us personally know that to be true,
I can vouch for it. I mean, I guess having you on the podcast and then also vouching for it at the same time might seem a little fishy to people, but like, to give you guys an idea.
$10 later, Grant. Thanks.
Well, hey, we're giving everybody else the 20% off, which, by the way, code Musketeers for 20% off through 6 p.m. tonight. It is 3:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as I'm talking. And if you are listening to this audio only, too bad. You should watch it live on YouTube, because it does come out a week later on audio only.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it'll still be 10%. I mean, hey, that's better than nothing. But
Great. We're not planning another sale, I think, until our anniversary usually.
Well, I didn't even ask for that. So like, Peter's like, can we do it? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Why the hell not? I just wanted to have you on to talk about Wham Bam, to talk about, because your story is a little bit unique. We do have designers in this industry that have industrial design and, some of this very beautiful anatomical freeform modeling work that you've done, but very few of them end up being good business owners. Because there is a fine line between an artist and a business owner, and you've
and the more business, the more that you take away from your creative end and the time to it. When I could actually get into the workshop and build something, oh, it is so satisfying. I'm so happy.
So you were always a maker, but you were an artist at your core.
Even to tell you the truth. So, I've used so many different 3D programs. I've helped companies develop 3D programs now. I'm 56 years old. I'm getting tired of learning new things, but I'm trying to abandon SolidWorks and move to Fusion 360. And all of my employees have to use it, but I can't find the time to do it. So I'll set up my computer with Fusion and my other monitor with a video of somebody doing it. I'll start on an exercise, and 2 seconds later, somebody's knocking on my door. Emergency, we need you. And oh my God. So what do I do? Every time there's a new product, I open up SolidWorks again. And that's, how am I ever going to get this? And then I always have somebody saying, you got to learn this new app. You got to learn this new. Yeah, if I had the time,
That is the one thing that a lot of people don't get. As business owners, your time is the most valuable thing that you have, because it is one of the few finite things that you have no control over.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's always, and anybody working here knows it, that their priority list is an ever-changing priority list. Give them a set of priorities. We got to knock this out, and then all of a sudden something comes up. Hold everything. We got to do all this. We got to do this, and you're just putting out fires. You're deciding. The other day, my wife was complaining about the lateness to come home for dinner, and I sent her a screenshot of 145 emails still unread, and it's just like, I got to pick and choose what's the priorities. And same with Melinda. We just had China's New Year affected all of our shipping from China. So we had it all here. It was reopening. And then we have one of our people sick for a month now. So we've all been doing double the work. And at a certain point, you've got to pick what you have to take care of. For us, customers come first. So it's order fulfillment and customer service. But some of the things we really want to do get put aside on the second shelf, just because there's only so much time in the day until we can clone ourselves.
I do not disagree with this. As somebody that has a clone of themselves, it's never the same. I have an identical twin. Bless my mother for not killing the both of us when we were younger, because we probably earned it multiple times over. I'm going to try to have her on for Mother's Day. I had my dad on for Father's Day last year, which is a lot of fun. People ever want to like learn about my family, my dad's great. My dad is where I get my humor from.
You know,
Very
I don't know
diverse.
if you or any of the viewers know Tom Morello, but
Mhm.
ex-Rage Against the Machine guy, but he has a radio show on Sirius, and he's always interviewing his mother, who was an activist back in the day, really great history, and I love it when he brings her on. It's great.
It's a lot of fun, and look, nobody's getting younger here, and if I'm able to kind of take a snapshot of them in their prime when we're having fun, I can go back and listen to that whenever the hell I want, and that'll never get old. I do see in the comments though, we have Maker Viking, looks like Fernando, Jordan, and I'll throw my hat in the bucket too. We are all willing to help you with Fusion 360. It's what we all use. So if you ever
Yeah,
have questions, you have
I know.
all
It
of our
looks so easy.
numbers.
I so appreciate that, guys.
Yeah.
My main obstacle right now is time, and then I want to do something that helps me bridge the gap between the difference between SolidWorks and Fusion, because I'm not starting from zero. I'm used to parametric modeling. It's just getting to know, how do you do it in Fusion rather than doing it this archaic way that we do it.
Have you seen in the settings that you are able to set all the movements to the SolidWorks motion system rather than the way that Fusion normally has it? Because that's like the first big barrier for me. Like my girlfriend's learning Fusion, and I went in there, I'm like, oh God, you didn't change it to SolidWorks. Give me a second. And I changed the preference to SolidWorks, said, learn it this way. It's
That's
the best
great.
way to learn it.
But then do you change back eventually, or you just keep it that way?
No,
Because
so we keep it on the motion system for SolidWorks. So if I ever need to work in
the
SolidWorks,
moving and zooming and that kind of thing. Oh, I'm
Yes.
going to do that.
yeah,
Because
it's
I helped,
backwards.
I helped also in this development of a program that was created by these French graduate students. It was called AMAP in the old days, non-parametric, but it allowed you to model in 3D space and push and pull like a sculptor would, and grab your tool and throw it off. And it was just such an incredible program that came with no manual. And it's a long story, but it was such a great program for just free-form modeling in space. And it didn't make a distinction between working with lines and points, working with meshes, polygons, or NURBS. It was all in one space, solids and surfaces. And they eventually sold to an American company who sold to another, and that other American company said, people really like the alias interface. So they offered the opportunity to put it into the alias interface, which was lost all of the beauty of this all 3D workspace of throwing away your tools around. And I think that was their fault, that at a certain point they just stopped growing and they abandoned it. And it was a shame. I think, even though sometimes it helps to have those things, sometimes it could lose its original beauty and personality. So I'm wary of doing it. But just for motion system, I think it's great, like you're suggesting.
I agree. Yeah, I would have loved to play around with that. I've always said the thing that I want, that I think will make me a better designer, is a surfaces and solids program that operates similar to ZBrush, but in VR. I want to throw on a VR headset, and I want force feedback, right? So as I'm moving and sculpting things, it feels like I'm doing it for real.
I love with the Oculus just doing the 3D painting. I built a motorcycle that way. Unfortunately, it's imprecise and you can't do anything once it's in there at this point from the Oculus. I'm sure some of the other more professional ones can, but I can't wait to see what VR does for 3D design and development. I agree with you.
I agree. And, we have Red/Ace in the comments. It's Peter Sassaman. I know who he is. He developed Scent VR. So if you're ever looking to add scent to your VR solution, hit him up, because that is
great. As long as somebody doesn't have gas, that would be wonderful.
He does have some really weird smells. We're just going to put that one out there. Maybe choose them yourself. Don't let Peter send them to you, because Peter likes to mess around with people.
That's a great idea, Peter.
But yeah, VR is, I think VR is going to be the way of the future. And I certainly see its value. Like that thought process of going from sculpting to CAD or the other way around is a vertical learning cliff. And you obviously had to learn it at some point. So when did you make that step in from that manual sculpting process where you just kind of draw it out on a plotter to going into doing full models inside of SolidWorks?
Yeah, and SolidWorks wasn't the first. I first professionally speaking, in a design firm where I was a lead designer, we started to use two-dimensional CAD, CAD it was called. And it was very accurate and precise. Come on in. my son, it's the weekend, so I've got my children, my dog, my wife in the studio,
It
just
is
using it.
all about family, because if it ain't about family, it ain't worth it.
So anyway, yeah, at first it was just 2D. We would do everything just front view, side view, back view, even one of these organic lamps. I'll show you. I have the head. I don't have the whole thing here. It's called the Hoy, but this I developed out of foam sculpting, but then took sections and then transferred them to 2D and views and everything, and then took the 2D and blew it up to make all of the snap-in fittings. I mean, I developed a very complex three-dimensional, and this is just the head. You have to see the whole body. Another award-winning piece that really did well. But this one was done in 2D, and there was a couple 3D, like 3D Cinema Max that came out that was
3ds
really
Max, yep.
geared towards animators and stuff. There were a few different programs. Of course, Alias was always there if you're willing to buy a Silicon Graphics workstation for $1 million. My brother, who's a special effects guru out in Los Angeles, had that and the Flame. I mean, they spent $5 million to open their own studio.
Wow.
But me, I couldn't afford that. So
Yeah,
slowly, yeah, different programs came out. And then eventually I found this Amapi, thought it was a joke. I just started playing with it. It was too easy and there's no manual. And then I went to a guy who was selling it and he showed me all these tricks, like you hold down the shift key while you're doing this and a new menu pops up. And I started using it, then hit a couple more walls. Went in one day, I go to him after hitting another wall and he's watching me use it. He goes, "You've gone way past what I know about it. I mean, I sell it, I don't use it every day." And so I contacted MIP and helped them to develop certain things. And then we had a rendering program called Atlantis, which became Artlantis and focused more on architecture. But in the old days, it was for 3D. So it was a gradual change. And I still remember one of the biggest problems with MIP, was hilarious, was if you're working in NURBS, but you do a Boolean operation, you cut or make a hole,
yeah,
it becomes polygons. So if you're merging two together and then you want to do a smooth fillet, forget it. It's all polygons. It was horrible. And I kept saying to him, we need a program that'll stay in NURBS and work in NURBS. And one day he calls me up, "I've got a beta you got to see. This still is not available to anybody, but I'm going to let you see it." I made him give me a copy to bring home and play with. And the name of that beta was Rhino. And it blew my mind because it did everything MIP would do. And you could work in three-dimensional view as well as in profile.
Rhino is great. Rhino's a great program.
It was great. And
it's still one of the few affordable programs out there. Good Lord, 3D modeling software's gotten expensive.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you look at Grasshopper for Rhino, that's so cool. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
Grasshopper lets you do repetitive patterns and layouts. It's really cool. And you have this really great GUI interface to build code, to make things.
Have you seen N topology?
No.
The letter N topology?
I haven't.
Just take a look at that. If you want to get a copy of it, I might know some people to help you out, but it is like 20 grand a year for a seat in it.
And now everything is damn subscriptions.
Oh, that's a rant that I can get on for a long time. Now,
that's something I don't like at all.
I get it as a business, right? They got to pay their bills. Yeah. But you should be paying your bills because you're getting new users, not because you're bending over your old users.
Listen, I understand it for razor blades. You're using your razor blade. You need a new fresh razor blade every month, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't know about that too much, but
if you use them. But there is no reason to be paying a subscription service for every software you have. It's just, it makes the decision that much harder. If I could buy it flat out, I do, but most of them don't even offer that anymore, right? It's real.
Yeah.
So
now I can rant. I can get into an old school rant about this for a few hours. It just pisses me. Like, it is why I will not be upgrading my ZBrush. I will sit at the final part, the final version of ZBrush that I don't have to pay for on a subscription, and that's it. I will never update it because I am not paying for that software. There are so many people that feel the same way.
By the way, I'd love everybody to chime in here. Even though I've tried so many different slicers for FDM and Resin, I'm still an archaic bastard that uses the same thing. So it's time for me to switch. I try everything so I know how to answer the questions for the users. I'm still using Simplify 3D. What do you guys think about Cura or Prusa? What's best? I'm still using Lychee, Chitubox free. Should I switch?
God, get out of Chitbox. I mean Chitubox. It's so bad.
I know.
I,
But like
I just put out, I'm doing a whole month of resin videos, Peter. Come on. No, I know you're busy.
I don't have time to learn. So
I know.
I have to make a hardcore decision. What is Peter going to use? Not my employees. They're using Prusa, they're using Cura, they're using Lychee. So what do you and your users recommend? What's the best one I should learn?
For resin, it's Lychee Slicer or Lychee Slicer. I accept no substitutes. Lychee is freemium. They have a free version that works perfectly fine. We have a paid version that they did give to me.
Subscription or a flat out pay?
It is a subscription, but it's like $45 a year. Okay, like it's not that bad.
That's okay.
And it's like a team of 15 or 16 people. It is not like Autodesk or, you know, Dassault Systems where you don't need that money. You get enough users every year. You're fine. You're just being dicks about it. But the free version, when we do our videos, I do as best I can to make sure that I stay within what is possible in the free version, because I don't want to alienate those that are unwilling to pay.
Yeah, so you and I have special situations. We have to communicate to our user base, right?
Yeah,
I have to use the slicers and programs the users use. You have to be able to show them things that they could do from the free versions, right?
I'm seeing in the comments right now, good love for Prusa Slicer, some love for Idea Maker and Cura.
Idea Maker, is that? I mean, I played with it. It looked really great interface, but I don't know if are they continuing to develop it? Is it getting better?
They are. Idea Maker's the quintessential one if you're doing belt printers, or Kirimoto. But Kirimoto is the one that's all in browser, which is crazy to me that it is full browser. You install nothing.
Yeah.
And it's all the processing's done locally.
That's what MarkForge does, right? If you want to slice your models, MarkForge, I think you might have a desktop, but everything goes to the cloud engine.
Yeah. So their cloud engine, which is called Eiger, does that. And what's special about MarkForge is on their X7 platform is Blacksmith, which uses cameras to detect surface accuracy of your parts and adjust printing parameters on the fly.
Those guys are amazing.
You're spending like 70 G's to get it, but I mean, when you're a big business, that kind of stuff is useful. I'm Prusa Slicer through and through. I use no other slicer. I used to be on the Simplify 3D band.
For resin, have you touched the resin with Prusa or no?
So before I learned about Lychee Slicer, I used Prusa Slicer for resin, and then I would use Chi2Box to actually slice it into the CTB file format needed for resin printers. Now I'm pure Lychee, and Lychee can utilize UV tools. That's this coming Wednesday's video showing how to use UV tools, which is cheater. It's cheating for resin printing. It will go through, find resin traps, suction cups, islands, all the things that you try to find yourself. It does it for you, and it fixes most of it for you.
Sold. I'm doing Lychee.
Yeah, and so
now, then the question is for FDM: is it Prusa? Is it Cura?
It's Prusa for me. We have so many Prusa printers here. We have 12 Prusa machines. I'm about to go get a 13th at some point in the next couple of months.
What about for general, for everybody?
Doesn't matter. Prusa Slicer can work for any, and they have profiles built in for Creality printers. Like I use it on here. There's a Lulzbot TAS 6 up there, Fusion 3 F410 there. Those are both running Prusa Slicer, no problem. You know, so I love Prusa Slicer, and the naming is a bit rough in that because you do assume that it is for Prusa only. It's not.
I've played with it. You know, the biggest problem for me is the terminology in one program that I'm so used to using isn't the same terminology in another.
Yeah.
So I'm not as fast. You know, I want to change whatever extrusion multiplier or retraction speed, and they call it something else under an advanced panel.
The thing I do miss is coast. There is no coast in Prusa Slicer. The big thing is the coast settings. Yeah. So in Simplify, you can.
I have a coast and wipe.
Yeah. Wipe you can still adjust inside of Prusa Slicer. You do not have control over coast inside of Prusa Slicer, which sucks for printers with really long Bowden tubes. But with that being said, there's news. I think Fabaloo covered it. Maybe, just maybe, we're seeing a version 5 of Simplify 3D. Now, they also said that in 2019, and in 2020, and in 2021. So I'll believe it when I see it. But if Simplify 3D can actually update for the first time in 3 years, I might give them another
Yeah,
shot.
I lose faith in those that have dropped the ball too many times, kind of like Thingiverse. At a certain point, I use it only because I'm used to it. And like I said, my time is too valuable, but I think it's time to switch. So it's great to have this feedback.
I love Prusa Slicer because, dude, it's got beginner, intermediate, and advanced modes, right? If you don't want to touch a damn thing, put it in beginner mode, run stock settings, it'll run. It'll run no
By the
problem.
way, can I tell you guys something I'm experimenting with? I hope my other competitors don't find out about it, but I guess they will. But I'm working on right now. I've got on order the Mosquito Magnum 2.85 and the Bondtech QRM. The really heavy duty extruder hot end with their own, heater volcano for 2.85 filament. And I'm working on a slicer code, a firmware code for our tool changer that we're working on so that you could swap between 1.75 and 2.85 on a whim with our Mutant. And
that
therefore,
I would love.
Therefore, I'm going to start printing 1.8 millimeter nozzles, 1.8 on a regular Creality machine, and switch back to my 0.4 nozzle whenever I want. Take advantage of the low cost of the 2.85 filament, and also just print giant layer lines.
I've got a Lulzbot Taz 6, and I have the Morstruder for it, which is a 2. And that was back when Lulzbot was 2.85 only, and that's got a 1.2 millimeter diameter nozzle. And while it is incredibly comical to put down 0.8 millimeter layers with a 2 millimeter wide extrusion extrusion width, there is not a single person in 3D printing that doesn't look at that and just start giggling like a child. I will say, because I have it handy.
The walls are so strong. I mean, I love printing with thick nozzles.
I converted my Taz 6 over to a Titan Aero, which is 175. I've got the 3 mil head on it now because I've got a bunch of 3 mil laying or 285 laying around that I hate. I never want to buy 3 millimeter filament again.
But if you have a Mutant and you have the choice, then a sale comes up on 5 kilograms of 2.85.
I'd buy it. Yeah, I'd buy it. Yeah, the system for Lulzbot to change it over, requires a firmware flash, but it doesn't work with a USB 3.0 port. So I actually have to go get an old computer.
That's why we're working with the Marlin program. And by the way, touching back on that, contributing to open source, we actually paid a Marlin programmer to rewrite this whole Marlin code that's going to be on, the Marlin GitHub and downloadable. And it can be used for any tool changer, but it's going to just give you the opportunity to set all your settings, flash one time, and on your you go in and switch. So.
Now I know you said it. Can we get a tour? Can we see around the shop? We're getting lots of. We want to see the tour. I think they're tired of us ranting about software.
Yeah, and we go off on the tangents. I don't know how interesting what I say is to everybody, but
hey, if you ever want a tangent, I'm the guy. Call me.
I'm switching over. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's so cool that Zoom can do that. He went from his computer to his iPad with a click.
We didn't know till this morning. Okay, I got to switch the camera view. Sorry. Now I'm on my iPad. So I'm going to give you the abbreviated tour, and you guys could tell me to stop where you want. This is just my own office. I'll show you one thing that I just laid out for everybody. There's the monofin I was working on.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And there is about a quarter of the TPU models that I printed just to test the ergonomic forms of the feet, right? So that was an invaluable tool to be able to have a 3D printer, because in the end, we designed and invented a whole new way of foot fit and easy strap adjustability and a whole new ergonomic form. That's the woman's model, but we made a monofin. It's just a high performance monofin for fin fun. That wasn't Wham Bam, that was my design firm. Let me go out and show you guys some of the space.
I was told your dog is here too. We do have to meet the dog at some point. That is a requirement. If we hear dogs on the podcast, we got to meet him.
Odie will come out and I'll definitely show you where we are. So let me show you. This is what we're so proud of. This is the warehouse. It was a real making and a working, and thank goodness for Linda who helped out. Oh, here's Odie. Hi, Odie.
The star of the show is here.
There's Odie. and she's following me around. She heard me open the door.
Yep.
So we finally have a whole warehousing and logistics. And for us, this represents knowledge, you know, prototyping. Yep. So we get to understand what it means to do it ourselves. We've shipped from our own factory building in China, our own shipping. Our China team has done it. We've done it with our fulfillment center, but we've never done it with our own. I'm just going to show you right now. My wife is using a photo studio for her own. She's a photographer. But this is
those are beautiful soft boxes. Wow.
There's my wife, Simona.
Hi.
And she's also a professional photographer and shooting some product. In here is the video room. It's not lit up because she's actively using it. I'm sorry. I'm going to go back out. So Odie is following me around. She's under my feet. I'll take you down through the offices so you get to the 3D printer room. Yeah, Melinda's usually housed in there. It's Saturday, so the employees are off and the family is in.
This is a nice space you guys have.
Our graphics department, thank you. This is our conference room. That's my son, Lucas. Say hi, Lucas. He didn't want to be on camera.
So you put him on camera?
Yeah. That's our finance department. Our tech department is here with some of our mutant samples. There's our PCBs and our metal cutting and stuff. And now we're coming to our 3D print lab, which to me is just such a pleasure.
Look at all the mutants on the wall.
Look at all the mutant hangers. I'll start from the top. There's the cake extruder, 40-watt laser, dial gauge, ceramic extruder, standard Creality hot end, some pen plotters. That is the BMG and slice. That's the what's it called? The Orbit. No, I can't even remember the name. The other small direct drive, couple of others, and there's mutants on every machine. Here is our
that's the hot
mega
box.
That's the Hotbox Mega.
Oh, the big one. Okay.
The really big one, and it has now a lot of new features like these big baffles on the top, so you could run dual spool holders and even a long slot for filament on all sides.
Very nice.
Yeah, and then we've got our our LED lights.
Yeah, those lights I'm told are crazy bright. Jordan says that. Yeah, I've seen them before. They're crazy bright.
They're great. It's great when you put two in. I only have one in the hot box, but I'll show you. It just lights up the whole hot box. You get two of them in there, and it's
the
just
reflective
amazing.
Walls help out a ton there. They really are nice.
Yeah, they're really nice. And I upgrade everything. I designed this holder for the filament runout switch and dual drive because I hated how Creality's shutoff switch with filament runout switch was grinding on the filament. I just get filament shavings everywhere. I couldn't stand it. So I designed my own, put it up on Thingiverse and Colts. Here's some of our various printers, FDM printers, filament rack, our resin stations.
Covered in slat mats as they should be.
I mean, we have the luxury. I just say, hey guys, send me 3 more slat mats, and I've got a box of slat mats there. And unfortunately, I had to put away a lot of stuff that, we don't only print here, we test our products. So I had to put away some of the things that we can't disclose at the moment. But this is, I'm proud of this room because in the past, we had our 3D printers in with our bandsaws and other machines. And then we keep our notes up here, like some of our mutant wiring setups and things. Let me go back out and show you some more of the space. I don't want to bore you with restrooms and kitchens and stuff, but just to get an idea.
Do we have to see the inside of the fridge? Is this like MTV Cribs, but office style?
Exactly. Inside of the fridge is a lot of Mountain Dew and Pepsi and caffeine stuff. And the workshop still isn't out of the boxes. I take out what I need to do what I'm doing, but we still have all the boxes and our tools in a pile because we're waiting for final permits.
Yep.
But an IT room is boring stuff. Let me turn it back to me. If anybody has any questions about going any deeper, I'll do that. Otherwise, that's pretty much the studio.
Oh, so far, I think there's a request for 5 new desks. Jordan says as long as he can have a bed, he's got the kitchen, so he's good. We're told the bathrooms are good.
I've already invited Jordan to come and be part of the team. The invitation's out there, guys.
But now we got Bob wants to move out here. See, all of a sudden, none of them ever wanted to move to Florida when they're complaining about the weather. But now that Wham Bam's open, now they want to come to Florida.
Oh,
Bob's asking, where do they apply?
I'm going to switch back. Let's see if this goes seamless.
There we go.
Not bad. That worked out well.
I hope that was interesting.
Oh, that was really cool. That's a beautiful space. That space was built out really, really nice.
The crazy thing is it was a bank before this. So we tore down this whole reception area and built a wall for the warehouse space. We had to remove the vault blocker. We had to remove all the panic buttons and electronics. I mean, it was crazy, but
well, is the vault still there?
No, the vault they'd already removed, but there was something that prevented thieves from pulling the vault out with, whatever, a truck or something. So we had to grind them off the floor. They were big steel angles that kept it from being removed.
We do have a question. Peter Red/Ace is asking, how much weight can you set on the top of a hot box?
I don't have an exact amount, but I've seen people with the Prusa's put 4 or 5 reels on the top.
He's wondering about, he's thinking 1 or 2 gallons. I don't know what his plan is, but I'm only mildly concerned.
Yeah. I could test that out and get back to you rather than saying something that's not true. I'll try to put some weight on.
Obviously, it's 16 pounds. It's 8 or 9 spools.
Yeah, obviously it starts drooping. Now it depends because a lot of machines have that top bar and it'll lean on that and you're great. So
water cooling. He water cools his printers. He wants to know if he can put the Peter, don't put the bath of the water on top of the printer. Sassaman, not Solomon. Sorry. Yeah.
I'll use gravity to feed the downward and pumping it back up. But you know what? Here's the thing.
I'm worried about the leaking problem.
Yeah. If you've got your structure of your printer going up right underneath the top, you might be able to just build it out a little flange to support it even further. So I would look at that.
Yeah. Physics wise, right, for the pump, because it doesn't need that much of head pressure to do it that way.
Right.
Yeah, I got to get some slat mats. We have industrial shelving like you guys do too. My resin printers are next to me. That's why I keep pointing up here, because that's where they are. I have a piece of plywood and I replace it every year or so. It gets some resin on it. It goes outside in the Florida sun, and then it goes into my workshop to be cut up.
One of the benches that I breeze by, I have to resurface it when I feel like creating dust because it's so impregnated with resin. It was from before we invented the slap mat. And I used to use cardboard, paper towel, everything. And, even when I told Melinda, I'm thinking about doing a mat out of silicone, she thought I was crazy. And I'm like, no, really, mess is a problem. And I'm tired of wasting paper towel for no reason and cardboard. And it contains everything. So we did a lot of testing with different grades of silicone to be sure that we could mix epoxy on it, use it with the soldering, make it as versatile as possible. And when we were finally sure that, nothing's going to bother this thing, we knew we had a product. And the crazy thing is we can't keep them on the shelves. They really, really are popular, and rightly so. I wouldn't go anywhere without them. I always have one mobile, like I said, for when I'm working on a machine. I put it right on the bed, and all the parts that come off of the machine are going on it. My screws stay in one place. I could solder over it without it ruining the bed.
Yep.
It's great.
I've had a soldering mat for years, right? Because when those things first hit the market, I'm like, oh, hell yes, I'm tired of burning holes in tables. But, to see it for resin printing, because we've always recommended some of the janky ways, go get a cookie sheet. Well, you probably don't want a metal cookie sheet underneath your printer. Silicone is great because if you get drops of resin on there, cure it, pop it off, and throw it away.
And we made that thick lip so that the stuff can pool on there.
It shouldn't, but if it does, you'll be fine.
I've done things like experimenting with mixing things into resins. I make a mess. I do make a mess, and I'm a messy person. If I cook the same way. I just grab things by hand and I put them together, and it's the way that I work. And it's great to have something that either hit it with a UV lamp or bring it out in the sun, peel it off, and it's fresh as new. It's great. And I use it for everything. I really do. I use it when I'm chiseling a piece of wood. It just keeps the block steady, So it's a great tool. You got to get them. We'll get you set up, Grant. That's no problem.
Well, I want them because I want to see how they compare to what I've been using. Because what I've been using is jank, but I've been resin printing for a long time, like more than 4 years. So I have systems because that was all what was available years ago.
That's what Wham Bam's about. We take away the pain points. I mean, every one of us has created systems. We used to create systems for removing print from the bed. You know, whether it was spraying with alcohol, chiseling, putting in your freezer, there were systems and workarounds. Now you flex, you know, and everybody just refers to it as if it's, you know, oh, it's just a standard, especially for resin. When we first finally produced it for resin, and I think maybe Uncle Jesse was the first one to do the review, it was such a shocker that the piece went flying. You didn't expect it to be that easy. And now people take it for granted. Oh, you got to get a generic, you got to get a flex plate. You know, well, we were the first one to do it. It took us about 1.5 years to get a production ready part out just to be resistant to the alcohol and the components in resins. You know, it took us a long time.
Resin is toxic, right? And it's damaging to basically everything it touches.
Everything, even those ones that are made from natural elements, still have plenty of the epoxies.
I think a lot of that's marketing wank, to be honest with you.
Marketing and saying it's, to me, I have a really bad grip with the water washable.
Same. People wash it in their damn sink.
Yeah, even though, you know, everybody says not to do it, you know that 90% of the people say, oh, it's water washable, I'm going to wash my sink. And we're putting that back into our drinking water, into our fields and everywhere else. It's hard to get that stuff out, you know.
Yep. I have well and septic. Whatever I put down my drain filters through the ground and ends up back in the water.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've written to every one of those 3D resin companies that claim that it's water washable, and I've written to them asking an innocent question that I never published or went and published against their name or something. I just wrote, can you prove that we can put this back after it's done into the atmosphere safely? Will it biodegrade? Was it a negative impact on the environment when you're producing it? You know, did it create also an impact in production? Will the parts biodegrade when you put them in the sand when you bury them? And they all say no. You know, all that is no. So it's toxic. It is made from plants.
Yep.
But you know, most of the poisons are made from plants. You know, just because it's made from plants doesn't mean it's safe.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I think, you know, resin 3D printing is wonderful, but I firmly believe it is way too cheap. Like the fact that you can get a very good resin 3D printer for sub $200, not know a damn thing about what you're doing, and then end up getting chemical burns, poisoning waterways, killing animals. Thank
goodness I need glasses for seeing up close. Otherwise, I would forget to put on eyewear. If you get that in your eye, you're possibly going to go blind, or definitely going to go to the hospital. I'm sorry. It's
the same way that these companies will sell diode lasers to put on 3D printers without any means of making them safe. And they'll send you some red tinted glasses.
You're already giving away a future Wham Bam product, but yes, it's crazy.
I don't know about that future Wham Bam product. I just have a problem with lasers.
I know. First of all, Creality and many of the others made diode lasers that attach by magnets to your hot end. I don't know how many people that told me that the cable, the cord, the power cord would get pulled when it went and the thing would shoot across the room. You might have kids and cats walking through there. And then now everybody's making these open source, open box. They're just the XY axis and the laser on them, and there's no protection. And I'm blown away. You know, anybody who's worked with professional lasers know that if you put all the respect into, you know, the reflections, the filters. Yep.
I made the dumbest, and I have an 80-watt carbon dioxide laser. I made the dumb, because like when you buy a laser, you cut dumb things with it first. Can you cut a pizza? Yes, it tastes like crap. Can you engrave a steak? Yes, it tastes like crap. Can you put salt and pepper on a salt and pepper shaker? Sometimes, but other times it cracks it. And is it funny to engrave pieces of bread and say it's a toast to doing business with somebody? Yes, it's always fun. Yeah. But the one time I tried to cut metal with it and I tried to burn holes in tinfoil, it reflected, burned through its acrylic cover and got me right in the face. I had glasses on. I'm like, shit. And it was, you know, it was a bigger spot. It was out of focus at that point.
Not only can they burn the lens of the laser by shooting back up, but yes, you can get onto the person. I'm so glad that you are a living witness that happened to you, because people don't believe it. It's scary. I had bought I think a $75 laser off of Banggood just to look at it, for the hell of it, because it was $75. And, you know, it was a laser that you could put anywhere, and you could actually turn it on its side and laser the wall and shoot your, you know, it's.
I think, you know, and reviewers do the same thing. They'll show off these diode lasers and you're seeing purple light. If you're seeing purple light and you're witnessing it with your eyes, you are having eye damage, period. From one of these, even 1.5 watt. Like if you took a 1.5 watt laser as a normal person and tried to go onto an airplane with it, you're going to have some problems. You don't have the classifications to do that.
Yeah.
I
worked for a company called Wicked Lasers.
Oh, you did? You worked for Wicked Lasers?
So I made some defense products. One of them was a dazzler that it was a laser range dazzler. A dazzler is used to blind somebody temporarily, like sea pirates, you know, when they're approaching the ship. They had great success with ours at checkpoints in the Middle East, where if a car doesn't stop, the person maybe didn't understand the instructions, the military stand there. If it goes,
to get their attention.
Yeah, if it goes through the line, they've got to kill the person because it could be carrying a bomb. So the laser dazzler, the point is that depending on the distance, you have to adjust the range or you're doing permanent damage, right? If a person's really close, you've got to lower it. If they're a mile away, you've got to raise it. So they had a laser rangefinder. They would send first a laser beam out to measure the distance, then adjust the intensity, and I created this. So anyway, long story short, I did a couple of products for Wicked Lasers, military products and others, and they sent me a couple of their lasers and light and flashlights also. And some of them were, you aren't allowed to point this in the sky ever. The FCC is going to come and get you. It'll blind a plane pilot, you know.
You can't do that with any laser pointer.
In their days, they had some of the most powerful. They looked like the Luke Skywalker's lightsabers.
Oh yeah,
right?
I know them. I used to have some. They still. Are they still around? I think they're still around. They used to make the world's most powerful handheld laser that you could legally buy.
We were working on new technologies of ambient lighting that I can't talk about because I don't know if they ever did it. But yeah, we were doing some really cool research for them. But as a result, they just thought it would be fun to send me all of their products. And I'm like, what the heck am I going to do with this? I've got young kids. I can't, you know, I buried it on the shelves. And every so often when I know that, you know, it's just me and one tech, you know, geeky guy, I'll pull it out and we'll say, put on some glasses. And some of them you could put on those refracting lenses that do 100 points, you know, and they go everywhere. And anything metal is going to go right back to you. I'm sorry, you know, it's scary.
I want to do a video on it, but I'm always afraid that, and because I get enough as it is, where people will say you're too animated, you know, this is obviously fake. You know, someone said who put the less stable Kanye West on camera. I'm like, well. I feel like I should be, that's not giving me enough credit, but you know, I want to do a video about laser safety, but there's no good way to do it unless you're putting yourself at risk. And there's no good way to talk about it without being animated.
There are those guys that had the saw stop for circular saws that if it touches your skin, it'll break the blade and pull it down. And they would use a hot dog as the example of a finger. That was brilliant. So maybe you could put some bologna on your face. You know?
There was a video on Instagram yesterday that my brother sent me of a gentleman who was recording for his YouTube channel, was showing him cutting a piece of wood, and he went to grab it. His finger, he had a saw stop. He had a saw, barely nicked his hand. And Peter, I tell you, he grabbed it like right where the riving knife would be. So literally where his hand would be caught and ripped around by the saw. He had a little tiny paper cut, basically.
Oh my God. I did prototyping all through my youth whenever there wasn't design work. I did special effects for films, famous films and things. And I have horror stories to tell. And the worst thing is when you tell one story, there's always 3 other people coming with their worst horror stories. And anybody who's been in it long enough is missing digits. And I'm so happy 3D printers were created before I lost a digit. You know? Yep,
it's the 10-10. Do you walk in with 10 and walk out with 10, or do you walk in with as many as you walked in with? Yeah. When we first got our laser, I put like ultra amounts of safety around it. We tinted everything. We made sure, because it's not invisible. You can't see it.
You know, the crazy thing is we bought the Lazy Bee, a laser measuring device for our workbenches. So we can measure the filtration that the different filters give you. And it's crazy that some cheap protective glasses
They don't do shit.
are so effective, but some very expensive films out there don't do anything.
Well, you know, what's always been funny to me, because I have like, is it right here? It is right here. Let me see if I can grab it up. Elegoo changed the covers on their Mars.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a manufacturing thing. This is a Gen, and look, it's still in the plastic wrap. This is a Gen 1 Elegoo Mars cover. This filters out all light from a UV laser. I have some high-powered UV lasers. The new ones don't. The new ones, I can shine it directly through and I can see purple on my wall. Which means the likelihood it's not filtering out all the UV light.
And remember, there's the visible spectrum and the invisible spectrum.
Correct.
Too. Crazy.
Now, hilariously, I had all of my resin printers near a window in Florida, and I never had problems with it scaling over, so it must filter out the stuff that matters, or the window filters out enough UV that it doesn't matter. So
they're doing a great job. You know, they're doing a great job. I don't know why they changed it, but it's crazy when you start to get, you know, expensive measuring equipment and you really put things to the test. It's crazy the things that you realize are being sold, and nobody's really controlling it unless you have some real certifications behind it, unfortunately. And if Wham Bam is going to put something out, we have to know it's effective. You know, one of the things that I'm really peeved about is when people are selling air filters and they say it removes the odor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the odor. I care about even if it's odorless, if it's hurting me, right?
Yep.
I want it to take away the VOCs. I want it to take away the harmful things in the air, but nobody claims that. They only claim it takes away the odors. Well,
because it's very, very hard, right? We have the Fusion 3's got a HEPA filter on it, but you know, if it filters out 99.9% of the VOCs, there's still 0.1 and it still stinks and I don't like it.
Well, listen, there were all these artists from the 1970s that were experimenting with epoxy sculpturing by hand, and they all died because epoxies, whatever gets into your body through the skin or through the air,
it's bad news bears
in your lungs and never leaves, you know. And all of these chemicals have a long-term effect on you if you're using them repetitively, like we are in 3D printing. And we need some people to actually come out with some real hardcore data that takes responsibility, whether it's lasers, whether it's resins, whether it's washable stuff, you know, somebody has to put out quality. And when we're talking about, I don't want to bash Chinese companies because we rely on them. We all take advantage of the low cost of Chinese production, but they're definitely not taking responsibility. They'll say, yeah, this is a laser protective window, or this is this, but there's no proof in there. We need some real hardcore companies doing the research. You know, Stefan CNC Kitchen always does great stuff of through the stuff.
Yeah, like literal YouTube dream right there of having the time, energy, and materials to do the kind of testing that he does. Oh my gosh. But I'm not going to encroach on that space. He's got that one locked down pretty hard.
That's wonderful. Speaking
of, Lychee Slicers in the comments, which is kind of funny. We were just talking about you guys earlier. We're going to get Peter using your software and get out of the garbage Chi2 box.
Lychee, I'd love to try a little bit harder to learn your software and adopt it. So yeah, that's really...
Let me know the next time you're doing a resin print, Peter. I'll hop on a live stream with you and I will support it live and show you how to do everything inside of Lychee.
That'll be fun. I've opened Lychee and I know how to use it, but it's just getting used to it, so I'm proficient. I don't have the time to experiment. I do something, takes me so much time in CAD, takes me so much time to slice, and it's already printing, you know. But I'm going to take the time. I'm making the move now. I'm leaving Chi2 box.
Well, they're saying to contact them, so I would say that's a good move. And the Lychee team is amazing. They have a great Discord server where they legitimately give a damn. And like they're constantly helping people. They're there hanging out too. And you know, the crew behind Lychee.
Contact or DM me or something.
I'll send you the information. Oh. Yeah. Or I assume whoever is commenting there has my Discord. Just DM me what email you want me to send to Peter and I'll send it over. But yeah, the Lychee team are amazing. There's not a lot of them, and that means that they are really caring. It's similar to how you guys are at Wham Bam, right? You give a shit.
Looking at Pat, and Eric Soderberg is on, and he's the one who modeled one of the really great open source visors.
He did. In
response to COVID, and we used his as the starting point to improve on and make our own. I mean, amazing stuff that he contributed to the community by putting that out there. So congrats.
And so I know we've gone over 2 hours, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. You got your family, your kids there. The dog really wants to play with you, clearly. So I have one final question for you. And this is the one that I think you've probably been dreading, because I did give you the list of questions beforehand. Maker or not, who do you look up to the most?
See, the problem is there's no one person. I look up to, for just real intelligence and pragmatic thought, my father. I really do. I really do. And everybody gives some kind of a credit to their family members, but brilliant person, brilliant researcher, and very pragmatic. My mother for arts. As far as people who are innovators and disruptors, I've got a list a mile long, whether it's, Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Branson. There's so many people who have taken the chance, but also had a real vision of where it can go and where technology will change sociological behavior, will change the end users' lives, and those people, and whether it's a great person doing a TED Talk that I've only heard of once, whether it's somebody who wrote an incredible book, there are books like The Innovator's Dilemma by Christensen, which still to me, comes up in competitions every day. The Experience Economy by James Gilmore, and I've had him speak a couple of times for a few groups. There's all these people that I look up to, and I can't tell you one single one because it depends on the topic. I'm sorry, I don't have a clear answer for that.
No, look, that's totally fine. I don't think I could choose. I mean, there is one person that I could choose. He's no longer with us. It would have been my late uncle. But if I look like at a maker, Joe Pruso's probably up there, right? Like as a maker, because not only was he a maker, or is he a maker, built an empire. The dude just bought a castle. Yeah. He's literally built an empire.
It's funny because I was living in Italy for 18 years, and the production for the guitar, the final luthier production, was just outside of Prague, near a town called Zebrac. And I was in Czech Republic a couple times a month for years. And there are so many incredible people. When the Iron Curtain was broken and it became a free economy, people were allowed to buy government-owned properties and factories. And there were so many creative people that were waiting for that chance to come out. It was the new Bohemia. It really was. And it was, he has not just the fortune of being there. He's a brilliant person, brilliant overall vision of things. And I admire everything he's done. So yeah, very amazing person.
There are a lot of great innovators in this industry, and I think we're at the time where a lot of patents are starting to expire, the ones that have kind of kept us under the iron curtain of 3D printing, if you will. And it is time for the innovators, the thought leaders, the people that are willing to say, just because it's been done this way for 30 years doesn't mean it's the way we should keep doing it.
That's exactly the reason why you need to change. When just because you've done it always like that, to me, is the reason. If you ask me, why are you doing this? We've always done it that way. Well, that needs a rethink.
Sanjay Mortimer, I mean, rest his soul. He would be the other person that I looked up to, right?
Absolutely. Brilliant, fun, really inquisitive person.
I am still so grateful to be able to ever interview him. We interviewed him, and it's on the channels, like 3 hours worth of content, just listening to the man. And the one thing that he showed me is the difference between a business owner, a leader, someone that gives a shit. Because never during that entire freaking talk did he ever talk about it as I. He was championing his damn team the whole time, just like you have been this entire time. You've been championing everybody around you. It is not about you. It is about the company. I love that.
Listen, nobody can do it alone. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
And the best visionary, but you don't have enough time in the day. You don't have enough expertise. And you need other people who are free thinkers, experts in their field, that you could give some sparks to and some guidance to, and let them do their magic. And if you don't have that, I'm sorry, you're going to be lopsided. You're not going to be able to complete it.
I could not agree more. And I'm glad that all the business owners that we've interviewed here, I mean, obviously we've had Pooch on, we've had Clayton, we've had Uncle Jesse on, and he says the same thing. It is about the collection of people that make up the team, that make the company the way that it is, successful or unsuccessful, right?
Yeah.
So
it really is. The hardest part to me, I mean, apart from finances, which I'm so glad Miguel's here. Oh my God. But the hardest part for me is also HR, because I love dealing with people who are great, even if they need correction. And the hardest part is firing somebody. I mean, I take
it's
everything.
the worst.
I take everything personal.
Yep.
So, there's certain things that, I wish that I didn't have to do.
Did you see our HR director? Did you go to our website and see who our HR director is?
No, is it you?
It's my cat.
I remember that. I did read that. That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So the cat who, of course, she has her own stickers and all that. She's our HR director.
That is great.
We're small enough that we don't need one.
You touched on something else that was really important about Sanjay and everybody else that you've named. I mean, if a person speaks with a passion about what they're doing, it's a whole buy from them. Go to them. It means they believe in it. They're doing it for a reason. They're not just doing it because it's a 9 to 5 or to make money. When we started Wham Bam, none of us said, let's become millionaires. Nobody thought we were going to make this into our profession. We did it because we believed in the product, and people were saying, make it for us, and everything we do it because we want to use it, just like you're saying, for your own innovations. And those are the people that everybody needs to support. And when you find those people, they're an inspiration. They've got their own stories to tell. Your channel hit it right by interviewing so many interesting people, far better than me. It's just such a pleasure to see all this stuff.
Well, and everybody's got their unique story, and I think that's what we're serving to do, is kind of tell the story behind the person, right? Because people know you as the Wham Bam guy, right? And there's so much more to you than the company, and the company is going the way that it's going because of your experience, the experience of your team. And I think that's all important to show off, because otherwise, they just kind of rebrand stuff from China might be what people think. And this can serve to prove that that's wrong.
Yeah. By the way, we bought a 3D printer for everybody, even our finance guy. And we're doing weekly meetings and training because everybody has to be passionate.
Dangerous.
I don't care whether you're the bathroom cleaner. I want you to be passionate about 3D printing to be here. We want you to be. So it's interesting.
One day, 3D Musketeers team, when we are profitable enough, you all will get printers. Until then,
I'm sorry. Uh-oh, I burned you. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. You already burned me on the desk chairs earlier. Because I bought a 20-year-old Herman Miller Aaron for myself because I have 2 herniated discs. And we had staff members in the chat saying, when's mine coming in? And my answer was, when you go and buy it.
I have a buddy. He's got a company. I have to remember the full name, UFO, but he does these gorgeous leather, and I'm missing the backrest accessories for the Aaron. Oh, my God, they're so gorgeous.
Well, someone with a bad back, I am always looking to make it a little bit better. That's been a big push for me lately with my innovations in 3D printing, of just like little tiny things to make my life better. But
look, you and I spend way too much, and as everybody here, I'm sure, spend too much time at the computer. Our bodies were not made for slouching over, staring at a screen, using a mouse. And, it gets to you. So we deserve a little bit of, it's not pampering, it's just doing the right thing for your body while you're doing that.
Oh, this is interesting. So Mango 3D, which is the company behind Lychee Slicer, they have Creative Friday, where they take a half day to do nothing but creative stuff. It's very similar, and it's essential for their team. I love that. One day when we can get our team to be, actually salaried and have, more than like 3 of them local, that would be awesome to do.
I would do that at my design firm. I mean, I admire companies that either do a Friday or open up a research department that has no lucrative goals or expectations. If you guys don't know about Xerox PARC, look up what they did in the 70s and 80s. I mean, they forecast so much of our technology today. Just doing experiments, doing free stuff. I was invited by Hallmark, the people who make cards.
The card company, yep.
To go and visit. I said, why do I want to go there? And my peers all pushed me, you got to go. They invite you. These guys are brilliant. They have all of these different really cool labs. They have labs for glass blowing, for calligraphy, but they also have Arduino and a 3D print lab and all this. And they ask anybody working anywhere, you could take 1 day a week to learn jewelry making or glass or Arduino, how to prototype things. Because by giving even the secretary, I don't want to, not demeaningly, anybody in the company, the ability to use their creativity productively, even if they were never formally trained, just new things come up. It's amazing.
I love that. Hopefully one day we can get there. I know the staff have full access to the printers at no cost to them, but most of our the people that work with us already have their own machines. They don't need it. So instead I extend the reseller discounts and things that we get to them so that they can.
Of course, you're giving all of your staff a free Apple Watch, right?
We're all Android. What out? I don't have any Apple. I don't have any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, I've always wanted to open a maker space, and I think that would be kind of the goal for 3DM. But you know, my goal would be to buy a bunch of land in the middle of nowhere.
By the way,
and print my own building.
Yeah. Oh, and I've got a guy who's he's brilliant in Australia that's working on Swarm 3D printing.
If you ever want to meet the president of Cobod, the big concrete printing company, let me know and I'll make the introduction for you.
And it doesn't matter. It's all, there's a million things to say, and we could keep our own discussions. Like
we will have to have a call outside of the stream just to hang out and chat. And of course, Peter, you have my personal cell phone number. Call me whenever. But you know, I think this is a good place for us to call it, guys. Yeah. I appreciate all of you coming out, hanging out. Jimmy, thank you for the donation. That helps the channel out greatly. Remember, code 3D Musketeers for the next hour and a half or so.
Just Musketeers.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, Musketeers. Just Musketeers. Gets you guys 20% off for the next hour and a half or so, up till 6 p.m. Eastern. And then after that, it will get you 10% through May 31st, 2022. Go check out Wham Bam. Go get some flex plates, some plates for your resin printers. I definitely don't have a cart that I put together last night when I knew about this ahead of time that I'm going to buy as soon as the stream's over. Go get yourself some slap mats, and the hot boxes. You've got my interest, because I'm definitely kind of done using the plastic bins for my Prusa minis.
You gotta try at least one.
I gotta try one, and you know, seriously, go support them. Go support Peter and his crew. Go help him buy more printers for the company and buy more Herman Miller errands for him. Peter, again, thank you so much. Seriously, this has been.
It was really wonderful talking with you. You had some great questions, and I can't stand being on camera, so hopefully those questions led to good talks.
Dude, you were great. I think this flowed really, really well. And you know, I know it's the ones where we go over 2 hours and we don't realize we've gone over 2 hours. That's the ones that's like, okay, this is good. I'm having fun.
Oh my God, it is 4:40. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a while. So
we need to give some people some time to get that code going if they want to use it.
Yes, we do. All right. I will let you go. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you all the live streamers who are on. And
do you know my outro?
No.
Okay. No one's gotten it yet. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Season 2, episode 23 with Peter from Wham Bam. This was awesome. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.